The Damba, Dom, bead. The Damba or Dom, Sanskrit Oma, dialectally also Domaki, Dombo, Damra, Damaka, Dumbar, Dambari, and variants, are an ethnic group, or groups, scattered across India. In North India, the preferred self-designation is Dom. The form Amba is Prakrit, while Oma and Amba are encountered in Kashmiri Sanskrit texts. Derived from Oma is Omaki, the name of a language spoken in a small enclave in Gilgit-Baltistan, Pakistan. It is also believed that the Dom or Domi people of the Middle East, in addition to the Roma of Europe, are descendants of Damba, who were taken, or traveled, to Sassanid Persia as servants and musicians. The term Oma or Amba is extensively used in Indian Hindu and Buddhist literature for a segregated and enslaved population. Etymology. Its presumed root, Dam, which is connected with drumming, is linked to Damara and Damara, Sanskrit terms for drum in the Sanskrit verbal root am to sound, as a drum, perhaps a loan from Dravidian, e.g. Kannada Amra a pair of kettle drums, and Teluguamama a drum, tom-tom. Pakistan. In 1989, 500 people were counted as speaking Domaki in the Sheena Valley of Gilgit-Baltistan region. The people are called Baricho, Dom, or Doma. They are musicians, and the Dom identity developed out of their work as musicians and blacksmiths. They are a heterogeneous group, descended from many families that took up service with the various local rulers. The Dom belong to the Nizari Ismaili sect, Athna Ashrashia sect in Nagar. After land reforms carried out by the Pakistan government in the 1970s, the Dom was given ownership of land. However, the majority of the Dom are still landless and are still employed as blacksmiths. North India. Dom in Himachal Pradesh exhibit the archetypal characteristics of an indigenous hunter-gatherer tribe that has been incorporated as part of the caste system. Doms are agricultural workers, basket weavers, and small-scale agriculturalists. They are not known for their nomadic existence. They are also recognized by their neighbors as the original inhabitants of the forest lands. The Dom community in Odisha speaks both the Adiya language. They live as neighbors with the Dravidian-speaking Kondh tribal. Dom speak Dravidian Kondi as well as Indo-Aryan Adiya language. In Varanasi, the Hindu holy city in Uttar Pradesh, the Dom perform the most important task of cremation of dead bodies. Many are nomadic and peripatetic groups in Uttar Pradesh are said to be of Dom origins such as the Bengali, Bantu, Bazagar, Hagura, Kanjar, and Sansi. It could also be that term Dom is generically used to describe any peripatetic nomad, as all these groups mentioned are distinct and strictly endogamous. Some speak a dialect or argot of their own, while others speak the prevailing dialect or language. The 2011 census of India for Uttar Pradesh showed the Dom as a scheduled caste with a population of 110,353. The Dom, also called Domi, Arabic, /ALALC, Dimi, /Dumri, or sometimes also called Doms, are a people with origins in the Indian subcontinent which through ancient migrations are found scattered across the Middle East, North Africa, Caucasus, Central Asia, and still parts of the Indian subcontinent. The traditional language of the Dom is Damari, an endangered Indo-Aryan language, thereby making the Dom an Indo-Aryan ethnic group. They have been associated with another traditionally itinerant ethnic group of Indo-Aryans variously called the Rom/Roma/Romani people, also known in English as gypsies. The two groups have been said to have separated from each other or, at least, to share a similar history. Specifically, the ancestors of both the Dom and the Rom/Roma/Romani left the northern Indian subcontinent sometime between the 6th and 11th centuries. Culture. The Dom has an oral tradition and expresses its culture and history through music, poetry, and dance. Initially, it was believed that they were a branch of the Romani people, but recent studies of the Damari language suggest that they departed from the Indian subcontinent earlier than the Romani, probably around the 6th century. The worldwide used name for gypsies to identify themselves is the term Tom, which in the Romani language means a man. The words Rom, Dom, and Lam are used to describe Romani peoples who diverged in the 6th century. Several tribes moved as far as Western Europe and are called Rom, while the ones who remained in Persia and Turkey are called Dom. Among the various Damari subgroups, the Gawazi are the most famous for their dancing and music. The Gawazi dancers have been associated with the development of the Egyptian Raqs Sharqi style. Distribution. The majority of the estimated population of 2.2 million live in Turkey, Egypt, and Iran, with significant numbers in Iraq. Smaller populations are found in Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, Sudan, Jordan, Syria, and other countries of the Middle East and North Africa. The actual population is unknown, as some Dom are excluded from national censuses and others label themselves in national term rather than as DOM nowadays. They speak the dominant languages of their larger societies, but Damari, their national language, continues to be spoken by more insular communities. Iranians called them Berbati or Koli, both meaning foreigners. There is a large concentration of Dom/gypsies in Jordan. Researchers claim that they accommodate Arab racism by hiding their ethnic identity, since they would not be accepted into Arabian society once their true identity is revealed. There is also a similar small community with some colonial Romanical ancestors in Malta. That community is called the Maltese Romanical. Bede or Bede is a nomadic ethnic group of Bangladesh. They are also known as Manta. The Bede traditionally live, travel, and earn their living on the river, which has given them the name of water gypsy or river gypsy. Bede people are similar to gypsy people. They travel in groups and never stay in one place for more than a couple of months. The majority of the Bedes live on snake-related trading, such as snake charming, training, snake catching, snake selling, etc. They also sell lucky heathers and herbal medicines, which they claim have magical properties. Bede's other occupations are in the entertainment services, e.g. monkey shows, magic shows, and petty trading. Many villagers believe in the magical powers of the gypsies. They can make evil spirits leave someone's body according to magical powers. Some of them beg on the busy streets of big cities like Dhaka, Chittagong, Khulna. They do not have any kind of formal education, and they do not use medical facilities. Most of them speak Bengali. Most of them are Muslim, but also practice Hinduism, shamanism, and animism, along with Islam. They are related to other South Asian nomadic groups, such as the Dom. The Bedes are a marginalized group. About 98% of Bedes live below the poverty line, and about 95% of Bede children do not attend school. Historically, the Bedes were unable to vote, as they did not own land, nor could they apply for bank loans or microcredit for the same reason. However, in 2008 the Bedes were able to win their right to vote.
This is brought to you by the strange, the bizarre, the unusual. I like it. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, please like, subscribe, share, make comments. We love feedback. This is brought to you by the strange, the bizarre, the unusual. I like it on both Facebook and YouTube.
The Lam people. The Lam people, also known as Bosha non-Lams, Armenian, Bashcha, Georgian, Gypsy, Russian, plus Athari, Kosa. Or Armenian Romani. Russian, Armenian Gypsies, Armenian Gypsies, or Caucasian Romani. Russian, Caucasian Gypsies are an ethnic group in historic Armenia. Their Lamavran language is mixed, combining Indo-Aryan and Armenian. History. The Lam, like the Don people, are sometimes considered a separate branch of the Proto-Romani people who remained in historic Armenia in the 11th century, while the ancestors of the contemporary Romani migrated further west in the 13th and 14th centuries. The names Dam, Lam, and Ram are likely to have the same origin. See names of the Romani people for details. The Lam is also said to be related to the Lamani people, or the Indian Romani. The Lamavran language is also very similar to the Lamani language. Number. The exact number of existing Bosha is difficult to determine, due to the dispersed and often mostly assimilated nature of the group. Estimates suggest only a few thousand of the people can be found across Armenia and Georgia, while government census reports only 50 living in the former. Distribution. Concentrations of Bosha can be found in Yerevan and Gyumri in Armenia. Some of the Bosha in Armenia has adopted the Armenian language and assimilated with the larger Armenian population. In Georgia, they live in such cities as Tbilisi, Kutaisi, Apokalaki, and Atalsai. They are noted for such occupations as basket weaving and metalsmithing, which are common among settled Roma. In Turkey, they live in Artven, adopted the Turkish language, and assimilated. Lamavran language. Lamavran, Armenian, Lamavran, is a nearly extinct mixed language, spoken by the Lam people, that arose from language contact between a language related to Romani and Donmari, and the Armenian language. The language is also known as Armenian, Bosha/Bosha. Linguistic features. Lacks grammatical gender and has 7 grammatical cases. Its grammar is closely related to that of the Erzurum dialect of Armenian, with the vocabulary being almost exclusively Indic. Numerals in the Romani, Donmari, and Lamavran languages, with Hindi and Persian forms for comparison. Mixed language. A mixed language is a language that arises among a bilingual group, typically very abruptly, combining aspects of 2 or more languages, but not deriving primarily from any single language. It differs from Creole, whereas Creole and Class pidgins derive from populations trying to imitate a language where they have no fluency. A mixed language arises in a population that is fluent in both of the languages. Because all languages show some degree of mixing. By containing loanwords, it is a matter of controversy whether the concept of a mixed language is meaningfully distinguished from the contact phenomena of certain languages from the type of contact and borrowing seen in all languages. Scholars debate to what extent language mixture can be distinguished from other mechanisms, such as code switching, substrata, or lexical borrowing. Definition. The concept of a mixed language includes hybrid language, contact language, and fusion language. In older usage, sometimes used misspent. In some linguist usage, Creoles and Pidgins are types of mixed languages, whereas, in others' usage, Creoles and Pidgins are merely among the kinds of language that might become full-fledged mixed languages. Thomason, 1995, classifies mixed languages into two categories. Category 1 languages exhibit heavy influence from the dominant group language in all aspects of structure and grammar as well as lexicon, Winford 171. Category 2 languages show a categorical specificity of the structural borrowing or a uniform borrowing of specific categories, Winford. Mixed language and intertwined language are seemingly interchangeable terms for some researchers. Some use the term intertwining instead of mixing because the former implies mixture of two systems which are not necessarily the same order, nor does it suggest replacement of either the lexicon or of the grammatical system, unlike relexification, massive grammatical replacement, and regrammaticalization. The grammar of a mixed language typically comes from a language well known to first-generation speakers, which Aaron claims is the language spoken by the mother. This is because of the close relationship between mother and child, and the likelihood that the language is spoken by the community at large. Aaron, BTAL classifies intertwined language as a language that has lexical morphemes from one language and grammatical morphemes from another. This definition does not include mischief, which combines French lexical items in specific contexts, but still utilizes free lexical and grammatical items. Matroff distinguishes between three types of models for mixed language: language maintenance and language shift, unique and predetermined processes, intertwining, and conventionalization of language mixing patterns. The first model involves the use of one language for heavy substitutions of entire grammatical paradigms or morphology of another language. This is because a speech community will not adopt a new or dominant language, and so adapt their language with grammatical material from the dominant language. Backer, 1997, argues that mixed languages result from mixed populations. Languages intertwine, in that the morphosyntax, provided by female native speakers, with the lexicon of another language, spoken by men, often in a colonialist context. This appears to have been the case with Michif, where European men and Cree, Nakota, and Ojibwe women had offspring who learned a mixture of French and Cree. The third model assumes a gradual loss of the conversational function of language alternation as a means of expressing contrast. In other words, language no longer becomes a means of differentiation between two speech communities as a result of language mixing. Lexical reorientation, according to Matroff, is defined as the conscious shifting of the linguistic field that is responsible for encoding meaning or conceptual representations away from the language in which linguistic interaction is normally managed, organized, and processed. Speakers adopt in a sense one linguistic system to express lexical meaning, or symbols, in the Valerian sense of the term, and another to organize the relations among lexical symbols, as well as within sentences, utterances, and interaction. The result is a split, by source language, between lexicon and grammar. Differentiation with other language mixtures. A mixed language differs from pidgins, creoles, and code switching in very fundamental ways. In most cases, mixed language speakers are fluent, even native, speakers of both languages. However, speakers of Michif and NV mixed language are unique in that many are not fluent in both of the source's languages. Pidgins, on the other hand, develop in a situation, usually in the context of trade, where speakers of two or more different languages come into contact and need to find some way to communicate with each other. Creoles develop when a pidgin becomes the first language for young speakers. While Creole tends to have drastically simplified morphologies, mixed languages often retain the inflectional complexities of one or both of parent languages. For instance, Michif retains the complexities of its French noun and its free verb. It also differs from a language that has undergone heavy borrowing, such as Korean, Japanese, and Vietnamese from Chinese, Sino-Xenic, English from French, or Maltese from Sicilian/Italian. In these cases, despite the heavy borrowing, the grammar and basic words of the borrowing language remain relatively unchanged, with the borrowed words confined mainly to abstract or foreign concepts. In the case of Maltese, for example, if verbs borrowed from Italian were inflected using Italian inflectional rules rather than Arabic-derived ones, then Maltese would be a candidate for being a mixed language. Finally, a mixed language differs from code switching, such as Spanglish or Portugal, in that, once it has developed, the fusion of the source languages is fixed in the grammar and vocabulary, and speakers do not need to know the source languages to speak it. But linguists believe that mixed languages evolve from persistent code switching, with younger generations picking up the code switching, but not necessarily the source languages that generated it. Most Portmanteau language names, such as Bombay Anglo-Romani, are not mixed languages, or even examples of code switching, but register with a language, here French and English, characterized by large numbers of loan words from a second language, here English and Romani. Middle English, the immediate forerunner of modern English, developed from such a situation, incorporating many Norman borrowings into Old English, but it is not considered a mixed language. Proposed examples: Michif. Michif derives nouns, numerals, definite/indefinite articles, possessive pronouns, some adverbs, and adjectives from French, while it derives demonstratives, in/animate, question words, verbs, in/on-the agreement with the subject/object, and some adverbs/verb-like adjectives from Greek. The three components of Michif generally remain grammatically intact, while the French lexicon and grammar are restricted to noun phrases where nouns occur with a French possessive element or article, idean/definite, masculine/feminine, singular/plural. Further, many speakers of Michif can identify the French and three components of a given sentence, likely from the phonological and morphological features of words. Although the phonological systems of both French and Cree are generally independent in Michif, there is convergence in 1. Mid-vowel raising, 2. Sibilant harmony, 3. Vowel length, e.g. French vowel pairs I/I/A/differ in length as in Cree, and 4. Instances where the three nasal vowels /A//U/ and /I/ occur in the three components. Although this last point of convergence may be due to Ojibwe influence. Scholars propose that, in the Métis multilingual community, Michif emerged as a need to symbolize a new social identity. The first unambiguous mention of Michif dates to the 1930s. The Métis of St. Laurent, a tribe of indigenous people in Canada, were made to feel their language was a sign of inferiority by nuns, priests, and other missionaries who insisted that the Métis switch to standard Canadian French. Because missionaries stigmatized Michif French as an inferior, bastardized form of Canadian French, the Métis began to develop a sense of inferiority and shame, which they associated with speaking Michif. Although Michif may have arisen as a way for Métis people to identify themselves, it became taboo to speak Michif interethnically. In an attempt to make students unlearn Michif French, some nuns used a token system in which each student was given 10 tokens each week, and for every use of Michif French, a student would have to surrender a token. Students with the most tokens were rewarded with a prize. Overall, this system did not work. Mednaj Aleut. Mednaj Aleut is identified as a mixed language composed of mostly intact systematic components from two typologically and genetically unrelated languages, Aleut and Russian. This mixed language's grammar and lexicon are both largely Aleut in origin, while the finite verb morphology, the whole grammatical subsystem, is primarily of Russian origin. Nonetheless, there are some syntactic patterns with Russian influence and some Aleut features in the finite verb complex, such as 1. A topic number agreement pattern, 2. Aleut pronouns with unaccusatives. 3. The Aleut agglutinative tense and number and person/number pattern in one of two alternative past tense forms. Scholars hypothesize that due to the elaborate Russian and Aleut components of Mednage Aleut, the Aleut/Russian Creole in which the mixed language arose must have been fluid bilinguals of Aleut and Russian and, therefore, not a pidgin language. That is, imperfect learning is usually a feature in the emergence of a pidgin. Furthermore, some code switching and deliberate decisions likely served as mechanisms for the development of Mednage Aleut, and it is possible that these were motivated by a need for a language that reflected the community's new group identity. Ma'e. Ma'e has a Cushitic basic vocabulary and a primarily Bantu grammatical structure. The language also shares some phonological units with languages in the Cushitic phylum, e.g. the voiceless lateral fricative, the voiceless glottal stop, and the voiceless velar fricative that did not occur in Bantu, as well as syntactic structures, derivational processes, and a feature of inflectional morphology. However, few productive non-lexical structures in Ma'e appear derived from Cushitic. Sarah G. Thomason, therefore, argues for a classification of Ma'e as a mixed language, since it does not have enough Cushitic grammar to be genetically related to the Cushitic language. By contrast, Ma'e has a productive set of inflectional structures derived from Bantu. Ma'e also demonstrates phonological structures derived from Bantu. For instance, the prenasalized voice stop/mbdn/phonemic tones, the absence of pharyngeal fricative, labialized dorsal stop, recessive and red reflex stop, and final consonants, as well as noun classification, number category, and word morphology patterns of Bantu. Syntactic and derivational patterns in Ma'e vary between Cushitic and Bantu origins. Some Ma'e constructions used, such as genitive and copula constructions, are both from Cushitic and these observations, given additional language contact cases like Asia Minor Greek, Anglo-Romani, and Mednage Aleut, suggests that Ma'e arose as a product of massive interference from the Bantu language by intense cultural pressure on the Cushitic-speaking community. Media lingua. Media lingua, also known as Chapipini, Chapilingua, Chapinal, Chapatini, or language. Roughly translated to half language, or in between, is a mixed language that consists of Spanish vocabulary and Ecuadorian Quechua grammar, most conspicuously in its morphology. In terms of vocabulary, almost all lexemes, 89%, including core vocabulary, are of Spanish origin and appear to conform to Quechua phonotactics. Media lingua is one of the few widely acknowledged examples of a bilingual mixed language in both the conventional and narrow linguistic sense, because of its split between roots and suffixes. Such extreme and systematic borrowing is only rarely attested, and media lingua is not typically described as a variety of either Quechua or Spanish. Karen's EPAL lists two languages subsumed under the name media lingua, Salcedo media lingua and media lingua of Saraguro. The northern variety of media lingua, found in the province of Imbabura, is commonly referred to as Imbabura media lingua. And more specifically, the dialect varieties within the province are known as Pidgin media lingua and Angles media lingua. Scholars indicate that media lingua arose largely by a relexification mechanism. Peter Meiskian suggests that the social context in which the language emerged as an interlanguage involved the presence of acculturated Indians that neither identified with traditional rural Quechua nor with urban Spanish culture. This is an instance of a language developing from a need for self-identification. Light Warlpiri. Light Warlpiri, seen as a form of Warlpiri by speakers, derives verbs and verbal morphology largely from Australian Creole, while nouns are largely from Warlpiri and English and nominal morphology from Warlpiri. Light Warlpiri likely developed as an interlanguage by a code mixing between Warlpiri and either Creole or English. This code mixing conventionalized into Light Warlpiri, which is now learned by Lajamanu children as a first language, along with Warlpiri, although Light Warlpiri is often produced first and used in daily interactions with younger speakers and adults within the Lajamanu community. Light Warlpiri is considered a new language for several reasons. 1. Light Warlpiri speakers use an auxiliary verb system of that older Warlpiri speakers do not while code mixing. 2. Elements are distributed differently in light Warlpiri than in code mixing varieties of older Warlpiri speakers. 3. Light Warlpiri is a native language, which indicates the stability of the language, and 4. Grammatical structures and lexical items from each source language occur consistently in Light Warlpiri. Gurindji Creole. Gurindji Creole exhibits a structural split between the noun phrase and verb phrase, with Gurindji contributing the noun structure including case marking and the verb structure including tam, tense aspect mood, auxiliaries coming from Creole. In this respect, Gurindji Creole is classified as a verb-noun, VN, mixed language. Other examples of VN mixed languages include Michip and Light Warlpiri. The maintenance of Gurindji within the mixed language can be seen as the perpetuation of Aboriginal identity under massive and continuing cultural incursion. Asia Minor Greek and Cypriot Arabic. Both Cappadocian Greek and Cypriot Maronite Arabic are cases of extreme borrowing, the former from Turkish and the latter from Greek. The remaining Greek dialects of Asia Minor display borrowing of vocabulary, function words, derivational morphology, and some borrowed nominal and verbal inflectional morphology from Turkish. Cypriot Arabic largely shows borrowing of vocabulary, and consequently Greek morphosyntax. These cases, including Mod 8, differ socially from Michif and Mednaj Aliud because they have evolved out of intense language contact, extensive bilingualism, and strong pressure for speakers to shift to the dominant language. Nonetheless, neither language has an entire grammar and lexicon that is derived from a single historical source, and in each case, the linguistic group achieves fluent bilingualism. The social context in which they arose largely distinguishes them from pidgin and Creole, and, for some scholars, identifies them closely with mixed languages. Kachikal Mayan language. The Kachikal mixed language, also known as the Goth mixed language or Goth Mayan, is spoken in the area of Santa Maria Cox, Santiago Zacatepec, Department of Zacatepec, Guatemala. A 1998 study by the Summer Institute of Linguistics, SIL, estimated speaker population at 2,000. While the language's grammatical base is from Paish, its lexicon is supplied by Kachikal. Other possible mixed languages. Karo-Romani languages such as Arab-Nisala, which derives most of its lexicon from Counter-Romani, but uses vast grammar and syntax. Bonan English, a mix of Japanese and English Creole. Gadal, or Tagdal, a Songhai base with a majority Tuareg vocabulary, sometimes considered a mixed language. Lingua Geral Amazonica and Lingua Geral Paulista, important historical languages spoken in colonial Brazil, composed mainly of Amerindian, predominantly Tupi, lexicon and Portuguese structure. Danish grammar and semantics with German vocabulary. Missing, Low Saxon, grammar, pronunciation, pragmatic, loan words, and substrate, and German vocabulary. Macassar Malay, mixing Malay, and Makassarese elements. Gold, a mixture of French and Swiss German spoken in the Basque-Ville district of Fribourg, Switzerland. Possible mixed languages with a Chinese element. Rutungbala, a mix of Chinese and Mongol. Dao, Chinese, Tibetan. Yi, a mix of one of the Zhuang languages and Pinghua Chinese. Lingling and Maojia, Mandarin, Miao. Pingwang, Mandarin, Santa. Waxie, Chinese, Lao. Epo, Uyghur, Mandarin. Hokaglish, Hokkien Tagalog English. Controversy. In 1861, Max Muller denies the possibility of a mixed language. In 1881, William D. Whitney wrote the following, expressing skepticism regarding the chances of a language being proven a mixed language. Such a thing is the adoption on the part of one tongue, by a direct process, of many parts or parts of the former structure of another tongue has, so far as is known, not come under the notice of linguistic students during the recorded periods of language history. So far as these are concerned, it appears to be everywhere the case that when the speakers of two languages, A and B, are brought together into one community, there takes place no amalgamation of their speech into A, B, for a time. time, the two maintain their own several identities, only as modified each by the admission of material from the other in accordance with the ordinary laws of mixture. We may call them of MBA, and not AD. Definitely shall doubtless meet now and then with the claim that such and such a case presents a peculiar condition, which separate it from the general class, and that some remote and difficult problem in language history is to be solved by admitting promiscuous mixture. Anyone advancing such a claim, however, says it is peril. The burden of proof is upon him to show what the peculiar conditions might have been, and how they should have acted to produce the exceptional result. He will be challenged to bring forward some historically authenticated case of analogous results, and his solution, if not rejected altogether, will be looked upon with doubt and misgiving until he shall have complied with these reasonable requirements. Wilhelm Schmidt was an important proponent of the idea of mixed languages in the very late 19th and early 20th centuries. In the judgment of Thomas Thiebiach, Schmidt produced not a scrap of evidence for his theory. Margaret Schlauch provides a summary of the various objections to Schmidt's theory of Sprachmischung by prominent linguistics such as Alfredo Trombetti, Antoine Milet, and A. Kolodobit. Despite the old and broad consensus that rejected the idea of a mixed language, Thomason and Kaufman in 1988 proposed to revive the idea that some languages had shared genealogy. Meekins, who finds Thomason and Kaufman's account credible, suggests that a mixed language results from the fusion of usually two-source languages, normally in situations of thorough bilingualism, so that it is not possible to classify the resulting language as belonging to either of the language families that were its sources. Despite these recent efforts to rehabilitate mixed languages as an idea, many linguists remained unconvinced. For example, Van Driem rejects one by one each of Thomason and Kaufman's examples, as well as those more recently proposed. Most recently, Versteeg rejects the notion of a mixed language, writing that at no point is it necessary to posit a category of mixed languages. In the opinion of linguist Martin Mauss, the notion of mixed languages has been rejected because mixed languages pose a challenge to historical linguistics because these languages defy classification. One attitude towards mixed languages has been that they simply do not exist, and that the claims for mixed languages are instances of a naive use of the term. The inhibition to accept the existence of mixed languages is linked to the fact that it was inconceivable how they could emerge, and moreover, their mere existence posited a threat to the validity of the comparative method in genetic linguistics.
This is brought to you by the strange, the bizarre, the unusual. I like it. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, please like, subscribe, share, make comments. We love feedback. This is brought to you by the strange, the bizarre, the unusual. I like it on both Facebook and YouTube.
Indo-Aryan languages. The Indo-Aryan or Indic languages are a major language family of South Asia, or the Indian subcontinent. They constitute a branch of the Indo-Iranian languages, itself a branch of the Indo-European language family. In the early 21st century, Indo-Aryan languages were spoken by more than 800 million people, primarily in India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. Moreover, there are large immigrant and expatriate Indo-Aryan-speaking communities in northwestern Europe, Western Asia, North America, and Australia. There are about 219 known Indo-Aryan languages. Modern Indo-Aryan languages are descended from Sanskrit through Prakrit. The largest in terms of speakers are Hindustani, Hindi Urdu, about 329 million. Bengali, 242 million. Punjabi, about 100 million. And other languages, with a 2005 estimate placing the total number of native speakers at nearly 900 million. Proto-Indo-Aryan. Proto-Indo-Aryan, or sometimes Proto-Indic, is the reconstructed proto-language of the Indo-Aryan languages. It is intended to reconstruct the language of the pre-Vedic Indo-Aryans. Proto-Indo-Aryan is meant to be the predecessor of Old Indo-Aryan, 1500 to 300 BCE, which is directly attested as Vedic and Mitanni-Aryan. Despite the great archaicity of Vedic, however, the other Indo-Aryan languages preserve a small number of archaic features lost in Vedic. Indian subcontinent. Dates indicate only a rough time frame. Proto-Indo-Aryan, before 1500 BCE, reconstructed. Old Indo-Aryan, ca. 1500 to 300 BCE. Early Old Indo-Aryan, Vedic Sanskrit, ca. 1500 to 500 BCE. Late Old Indo-Aryan, Epic Sanskrit, Classical Sanskrit, ca. 200 C to 1300 C. Middle Indo-Aryan or Prakrit, ca. 1400 BCE or 300 BCE to 1500 C. Mitanni Middle Indo-Aryan features, ca. 1400 BCE. Early Buddhist text, ca. 6th or 5th century BCE. Early Middle Indo-Aryan, e.g. Ashokan Prakrit, Pali, Don Perry, ca. 300 to 200 BCE. Middle Indo-Aryan, e.g. Dramatic Prakrit, Elu, ca. 200 BCE to 700 CE. Late Old Indo-Aryan, e.g. Abhahata, ca. 700 to 1500 CE. Early Modern Indo-Aryan, Late Medieval India. Early Deccan and emergence of the Parivali dialect. Old Indo-Aryan. The earliest evidence of the group is from Mitanni Indo-Aryan. The only evidence of it is a few proper names and specialized loan words. Rigvedic Indo-Aryan has been used in the ancient preserved religious hymns of the Rigveda, the earliest Vedic literature. From the Rigvedic language, Sanskrit, literally put together, meaning perfected or elaborated, developed as the prestige language of culture, science, and religion, as well as the court, theater, etc. Sanskrit is, by convention, referred to by modern scholars as classical Sanskrit in contradistinction to the so-called Rigvedic Sanskrit, which is largely intelligible to Sanskrit speakers. Middle Indo-Aryan, Prakrit. Mitanni inscriptions show some Middle Indo-Aryan characteristics along with Old Indic. For example, Sapta in Old Indo-Aryan becomes Sada. TT is transformed into Middle Indo-Aryan, TT. According to S.F. Mishra, this language can be similar to Buddhist hybrid Sanskrit, which might not be a mixed language, but an early Middle Indo-Aryan occurring much before Prakrit. Outside the learned sphere of Sanskrit, vernacular dialects, Prakrit, continue to evolve. The oldest attested Prakrits are the Buddhist and Jain canonical languages Pali and Ardha-Magadhi Prakrit, respectively. By medieval times, the Prakrits had diversified into various Middle Indo-Aryan languages. Padra is the conventional cover term for transitional dialect connecting late Middle Indo-Aryan with early modern Indo-Aryan, spanning roughly the 6th to 13th centuries. Some of these dialects showed considerable literary production. The Sravakakara of Devasena, dated to the 930s, is now considered to be the first Hindi book. The next major milestone occurred with the Muslim conquest in the Indian subcontinent in the 13th to 16th centuries. Under the flourishing Turco-Mongol Mughal Empire, Persian became very influential as the language of prestige of the Islamic courts due to adaptation of the foreign language by the Mughal emperors. However, Persian was soon displaced by Hindustani. This Indo-Aryan language is a combination of Persian, Arabic, and Turkic elements in its vocabulary, with the grammar of the local dialect. The two largest languages that formed from a padra were Bengali and Hindustani. Others include Assamese, Sindhi, Gujarati, Odia, Marathi, and Punjabi. New Indo-Aryan dialect continuum. The Indo-Aryan languages of North India and Pakistan form a dialect continuum. What is called Hindi in India is frequently Standard Hindi, the Sanskritized version of the colloquial Hindustani spoken in the Delhi area since the Mughal. However, the term Hindi is also used for most of the Central Indic language varieties from Bihar to Rajasthan. The spoken New Indo-Aryan dialects from Assam in the east to the borders of Afghanistan in the west form a linguistic continuum across the plains of North India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. Medieval Hindustani. In the Central Zone Hindi-speaking areas, for a long time, the prestige dialect was Braj Bhasha, but this was replaced in the 19th century by the Karibali-based Hindustani. Hindustani was strongly influenced by Sanskrit and Persian, with these influences leading to the emergence of modern Standard Hindi and modern Standard Urdu as registers of the Hindustani language. This state of affairs continued until the division of the British Indian Empire in 1947, when Hindi became the official language in India and Urdu became official in Pakistan. Despite the different script, the fundamental grammar remains identical. The difference is more socio-linguistic than purely linguistic. Today it is widely understood, spoken as a second or third language throughout South Asia, and one of the most widely known languages in the world in terms of the number of speakers. Mitanni-Aryan. Some theonyms, proper names, and other terminology of the Mitanni exhibit an Indo-Aryan superstrate, suggesting that an Indo-Aryan elite imposed itself over the Hurrians in the course of the Indo-Aryan expansion. In a treaty between the Hittites and Mitanni, the deities Mitra, Varuna, Indra, and the Ashvins, Nasatya, are invoked. Hickley's horse training text includes technical terms such as Ika, Eka, 1, Kara, 3, Panza, Pancha, 5, Sata, Sapta, 7, and 8, Nava, 9, Vartana, turn, round in the horse race. The numeral Ika 1 is of particular importance because it places the superstrate in the vicinity of Indo-Aryan proper, as opposed to Indo-Iranian or early Iranian, which has Iva in general. Another text has Babra, brown, Karida, Kalida, gray, and Pintera, Pinlock, red. Their chief festival was the celebration of the solstice, the Shiva, which was common in most cultures in the ancient world. The Mitanni warriors were called Maurya, the term for a warrior in Sanskrit as well. No Mistanu equals Miha, Sanskrit mat, payment, for catching a fugitive, M. Merhofer, etymologist, Wörterbuch de Altindo-Aristchen, Heidelberg, 1986 to 2000, Volume 2:358. Sanskritic interpretations of Mitanni royal names render Ardashumara, as Kathmara, who thinks of top, Merhofer 2780, Viradashva, Firia, as Pratasva, whose horse is deer, Merhofer 2182, Prayamazda, as Prayamita, whose wisdom is deer, Merhofer 2189, 2378, Citrarada is Citrarasa, whose chariot is shining, Merhofer I-553, Indaruda/Andaruda is Indroda helped by Indra, Merhofer I-134, Shatavaza, Adieza, as Satavaja winning the race. Price, Merhofer 2540, 696, Sabandhu having good relatives, a name in Palestine, Merhofer 2209, 735, Sishada, Sarada, etc., as asterisk Tyarata, Vedic Shashtar, whose chariot is vehement, Merhofer, Edom WB, I-686, I-736. Romani, Lamavran, and Damari languages. Damari is an Indo-Aryan language spoken by older Dam people scattered across the Middle East. The language is reported to be spoken as far north as Azerbaijan and as far south as central Sudan. one based on the systematicity of sound changes, we know with a fair degree of certainty that the names Damari and Romani derive from the Indo-Aryan word Lamabran. Lamabran is a nearly extinct mixed language, spoken by the Long people, that arose from language contact between a language related to Romani and Damari, and the Armenian language, Romani. The Romani language is usually included in the Western Indo-Aryan languages. Romani, spoken mainly in various parts of Europe, is conservative in maintaining almost intact the Middle Indo-Aryan present tense person concord markers, and in maintaining consonantal endings for nominal case, both features that have been eroded in most other modern languages of Central India. It shares an innovative pattern of past tense person concord with the languages of the Northwest, such as Kashmiri and Shina. This is believed to be further proof that Romani originated in the central region, then migrated to the northwest. There are no known historical documents about the early phases of the Romani language. Linguistic evaluation carried out in the 19th century by Pott, 1845, and Miklosic, 1882-1888, showed that the Romani language is to be classed as a New Indo-Aryan language, NIA, not Middle Indo-Aryan, missing in action, establishing that the ancestors of the Romani could not have left India significantly earlier than AD 1000. The principal argument favoring a migration during or after the transition period to NIA is the loss of the old system of nominal case, and its reduction to just a two-way case system, nominative versus oblique. A secondary argument concerns the system of gender differentiation. Romani has only two genders, masculine and feminine. Middle Indo-Aryan languages, named missing in action, generally had three genders, masculine, feminine, and neuter, and some modern Indo-Aryan languages retain this old system even today. It is argued that the loss of the neuter gender did not occur until the transition to NIA. Most of the neuter nouns became masculine, while a few feminines, like the neuter, Agni, in the Prakrit became the feminine, Ag, in Hindi, and Jag in Romani. The parallels in grammatical gender evolution between Romani and other NIA languages have been cited as evidence that the forerunner of Romani remained on the Indian subcontinent until a later period, perhaps even as late as the 10th century. Classification. There can be no definitive enumeration of Indo-Aryan languages because their dialects merge into one another. The major ones are illustrated here. For the details, see the dedicated articles. The classification follows Masika, 1991, and Kausen, 2006. Dardic. Kashmiri, 5.6 million speakers. China, 500,000 speakers. Roxcap, 10,000 speakers. Damaki, 340 speakers. Kundalshahi, 700 speakers. Kalkoti, 6,000 speakers. Ashaji, 2,000 speakers. Palula, 10,000 speakers. Sabi, 3,000 speakers. Pashais, 400,000 speakers. Samuelized, 5,000 speakers. The Warbody, 9,500 speakers. Nangalani, 5,000 speakers. Chamajti, 1,000 speakers. Chitral. Kalasha, 5,000 speakers. Kowar, 290,000 speakers. Kovastani, 200,000 speakers. Battery, 29,000. Chaliso, 1,000 speakers. Cauro, 200 speakers. Kalami, 100,000 speakers. Durahi, 100 speakers. Korwali, 80,000 speakers. Wodakurikadarkalai. Northern Zone. Central Sahari. Garwali, 2.9 million speakers. Somani, 2.4 million speakers. Eastern Sahari. Nepali, 17 million speakers. Jumli, 85,000. Northwestern Zone. Dogri, 4 million speakers. Himachali. Tengri, 1.1 million speakers. Mandili, 1.7 million. Jansari, 100,000 speakers. Koluk, 110,000. Bahari, Kanori, 6,300 speakers. Mahasa, Himachali, 1 million speakers. Pinduri, 30,000 speakers. Tamori, 400,000 speakers. Punjabi, 122 million speakers. Dodi, Landa, Saraiki, 20 million speakers. Incho, 3.7 million speakers. Jesse, Popuri, 2.5 million speakers. Maji, Malwide, Kwadi, Sindhi, 25 million speakers. Jajali, 25,000 speakers. Kutchi, 873,000 speakers. Luwadi, 5,000 speakers. Mamoni. Western Zone. Ethnologue lists the following languages under the Western Zone that are not already covered in other subgroups. Rajasthani. Rajasthani proper, 25.8 million speakers. Bagri, 2.1 million speakers. Marwari, 22 million speakers. Mewdi, 3 million speakers. Zendari, 9.6 million speakers. Haradi, 4.7 million speakers. Muri, 5.1 million speakers. Chekawadi, 3 million speakers. Bagri, 2.1 million speakers. Daki, 150,000 speakers. Malvi, 5.6 million speakers. Nimadi, 2.31 million speakers. Gujarati, 49 million speakers. Jandavra, 5,000 speakers. Saurashtra, 190,000 speakers. Air, 100 speakers. Bagri, 10,000 speakers. Butbi, 1.2 million speakers. Koli, 1.4 million speakers. Parkari Koli, 250,000 speakers. Pachi Koli, 500,000 speakers. Wardiyara Koli, 542,000 speakers. Bill, Northern Bill. Boria, 27,000 speakers. Valori, 200,000 speakers. Magari, Central Bill. Billy proper, 3.5 million speakers. Bilali, 1.1 million speakers. Todri, 210,000 speakers. Dodia, 170,000 speakers. Danki, 140,000 speakers. Dubli, 250,000 speakers. Bareilly, Halia Bareilly, 10,000 speakers. Kori Bareilly, 640,000 speakers. Rakwi Bareilly, 100,000 speakers. Party, 49,000 speakers. Kalto, 15,000 speakers. Kandeshi, 1.9 million speakers. Damari, 4 million speakers. Romani, 1.5 million speakers. Northern Romani. Hit Romani, 200,000 speakers. Carpathian Romani, 160,000 speakers. Finnish, Kalo, 12,000 speakers. Baltic Romani, 35,000 speakers. Carpathian Romani, 150,000 speakers. Balkan Romani, 560,000 speakers. Black Romani, 540,000 speakers. Central Zone, Mapya or Hindi. Area, 4,000 speakers. Western Hindi. Hindustani, including Standard Hindi and Standard Urdu, 329 million speakers. Raj, 21 million speakers. Haryanvi, 8 million speakers. Bundeli, 3.1 million speakers. Kanaji, 9.5 million speakers. Eastern Hindi. Awadhi, 3.5 million speakers. Fiji, Hindi, 460,000 speakers. Swahili, 8.4 million speakers. Chhattisgarhi, 24 million speakers. Paria historically belonged to the Central Zone, but lost intelligibility with other languages of the group due to geographic distance and numerous grammatical and lexical innovations. Eastern Zone. These languages derive from Magadhan, a Pabra Prakrit. Bihari. Bhojpuri, 51 million speakers. Caribbean Hindustani, 166,000 speakers. Magahi / 20 million speakers. Italy / 33.9 million speakers. Andika / 743,000 speakers. Portha, 8.04 million speakers. Sudri, Nagpuri, 5.1 million speakers. Burmali, 556,089 speakers. Paro, 1.9 million speakers. Adia, 34 million speakers. Albic, Albai, 766,000 speakers. Batri, 334,000 speakers. Kamar, 40,000 speakers. Nirgan, 60,000 speakers. Nahari, 20,000 speakers. Bengali Assamese. Assamese, 15 million speakers. Tamburti dialect. Varkisha dialect. Malbaria dialect. Palisbaria dialect. Bulgaria dialect. Bengali, 268 million speakers. Bengali, 97 million speakers. Rari, 30 million speakers. Purendri, 24 million speakers. Sundarbani, 20 million speakers. Jharkhandi, 12 million speakers. Vishnupriya Manipuri, 120,000 speakers. Jaffna, 330,000 speakers. Chittagonian, 16 million speakers. Darindi, 15 million speakers. Rohingya / Rohingya, 1.8 million speakers. Silhiti / 13 million speakers. Jalalabadi dialect, 11 million speakers. Jaintian dialect, 0.5 million speakers. Barak dialect, 1 million speakers. Southern Zone languages. This group of languages developed from Maharashtri Prakrit. It is not clear if Dakini, Deccani, Southern Urdu, is part of Hindustani along with Standard Urdu or a separate Persian-influenced development from Marathi. Marathi Konkani. Marathi, 73 million speakers. Gudaji, 1,000 speakers. Kannadi. Konkani, 2.26 million speakers. Katkari, 12,000 speakers. Putna, 110,000 speakers. Garli, 387,000 speakers. Maharashtrian Konkani, 2.4 million speakers. Insular Indo-Aryan. Sinhala, 17 million. Maldivian, 340,000 speakers. Mal, 10,000 speakers. The Insular Indo-Aryan languages share several characteristics that set them apart significantly from the continental languages. Unclassified. The following languages are related to each other, but otherwise unclassified within Indo-Aryan. Kuswaric. Danwar, 46,000 speakers. Boat-derived, 20,000 speakers. Chinali Lahol-Lohar. Chinali, 750 speakers. Lahol-Lohar, 750 speakers. The following other poorly attested languages are listed as unclassified within the Indo-Aryan family by Ethnologue 17. Kanyari, Punjabi, Odi, Marathi, Bagri Bali, and Kumhali, perhaps in Central. Also Degara, Mina, Malay, and Galan are all names for the Gali caste, rather than a language. Kolosi. The Kolosi language is a more recently discovered Indo-Aryan language spoken by around 1800 people in 2 villages in southern Iran and remains currently unclassified. Phonology. Consonants. Stop positions. The normative system of New Indo-Aryan stops consists of 5 points of articulation: labial, dental, retroflex, palatal, and velar, which is the same as that of Sanskrit. The retroflex position may involve retroflexion, or curling the tongue to make the contact with the underside of the tip, or merely retraction. The point of contact may be alveolar or postalveolar, and the distinctive quality may arise more from the shaping than from the position of the tongue. Palatal stops have affricate release and are traditionally included as involving a distinctive tongue position, laid in contact with hard palate. Widely transcribed as teeth, Masika, 1991:94, claims C to be a more accurate rendering. Moving away from the normative system, some languages and dialects have alveolar affricates ts instead of palatal, though some among them retain t in certain positions before front vowels, especially /I/, before /j/, or when denominated. Alveolar as an additional point of articulation occurs in Marathi and Konkani, where dialect mixture and other factors upset the aforementioned supplementation to produce minimal environment. In some West Pahari dialects, through internal development, *tr, t/p/, and in Kashmiri. The addition of a retroflexed affricate to this in some Dardic languages maxes out the number of stop positions at 7, barring borrowed /q/, while a reduction to the inventory involves *ts/f/, which has happened in Assamese, Chittagonian, Sinhala, though there have been other sources of a secondary /ts/ and Southern Muri. Further reductions in the number of stop articulations are in Assamese and Romani, which have lost the characteristic dental/retroflex contrast, and in Chittagonian, which may lose its labial and velar articulation through spiritualization in many positions. F. Nasal. Sanskrit was noted as having 5 nasal stop articulations corresponding to its oral stop, and among modern languages and dialects Dogri, Kachhi, Palasha, Bihari, China, Zoroastri, and Sindhi have been analyzed as having this full complement of phonemic nasal /n//n//n//n//n// with the last two generally as the result of the loss of the stop from a homoorganic nasal and stop cluster, neuter dn and edum, though there are other sources as well. Language and dialect. In the context of South Asia, the choice between the appellations language and dialect is a difficult one, and any distinction made using these terms is obscured by their ambiguity. In one general colloquial sense, a language is a developed dialect. Standardized one has a written tradition and enjoys social prestige. As there are degrees of development, the boundary between a language and a dialect thus defined is not clear-cut, and there is a large middle ground where an assignment is contestable. There is a second meaning of these terms, in which the distinction is drawn based on linguistic similarity. Though seemingly a proper linguistic sense of the term, it is still problematic. Methods that have been proposed for quantifying difference, for example, based on mutual intelligibility, have not been seriously applied in practice, and any relationship established in this framework is relative.
This is brought to you by the strange, the bizarre, the unusual. I like it. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, please like, subscribe, share, make comments. We love feedback. This is brought to you by the strange, the bizarre, the unusual. I like it on both Facebook and YouTube.
Armenian language. The Armenian language, classical, reformed, H.J. Hayiran, is an Indo-European language that is the only language in the Armenian branch. It is the official language of Armenia, as well as the de facto Republic of Artsakh. Historically being spoken throughout the Armenian highlands, today, Armenian is widely spoken throughout the Armenian diaspora. Armenian is written in its writing system, the Armenian alphabet, introduced in 405 AD by Mesrop Mashtops. History, classification and origins. Armenian is an independent branch of the Indo-European languages. It is of interest to linguists for its distinctive phonological developments within that family. Armenian exhibits more satemization than sentimization, although it is not classified as belonging to either of these subgroups. Some linguists tentatively conclude that Armenian, Greek, Phrygian, and Indo-Iranian were dialectally close to each other. Within this hypothetical dialect group, Proto-Armenian was situated between Proto-Greek, Centum, subgroup, and Proto-Indo-Iranian, Shatum, subgroup. Others have noted unique morphological developments connecting Armenian to Balto-Slavic languages. Armenia was a monolingual country by the 2nd century BC at the latest. Its language has a long literary history, with the 5th century Bible translation as its oldest surviving text. Vocabulary has historically been influenced by Western Middle Iranian languages, particularly Parthian, and to a lesser extent by Greek, Persian, and Syriac. There are two standardized modern literary forms, Eastern Armenian and West Armenian, with which most contemporary dialects are mutually intelligible. Although Armenian much earlier, for example, they were mentioned in 6th century BC Dagestan inscription and in Xenophon's 4th century BC history, the Anabasis, Comma 31. The oldest surviving Armenian language text is the 5th century AD Bible translation of Mesrop Mashtops, which created the Armenian alphabet in 405, at which time it had 36 letters. It is also credited by some with the creation of the Caucasian Albanian alphabet. While Armenian constitutes the sole member of the Armenian branch of the Indo-European family, some have suggested that the hypothetical Mushki language may have been a, now extinct, Armenia language. Early contact. W.M. Austin, 1942, concluded that there was early contact with Armenian and Anatolian languages, what he considered common archaisms, is the lack of feminine gender and the absence of inherited long vowels. However, unlike shared innovation or common retention of archaisms, is not considered conclusive evidence of a period of isolated development. However, there are words used in the Armenian that are generally believed to have been borrowed from Anatolian languages, particularly from Luwian. although some have identified possible Hittite loanwords as well. In 1985, Soviet linguist M. Dyakonov is the present classical Armenian, what he calls Caucasian substratum identified by earlier scholars of the Kartvelian and Northeast Caucasian languages. Noting that Hurro-Urartian-speaking peoples inhabited the Armenian homeland in the 2nd millennium BC, Dyakonov identifies an Armenian Hurro-Urartian substratum of social, cultural, animal, and plant terms such as a Latin slave girl, her, adult, L-A-E-N, T-O-V-C, Urart, inland, T-U-L-T camel, her, Urtu, and Joro, apple, tree, her, Zuri. Some of the terms he gives admittedly have an Akkadian or Sumerian provenance, but he suggests they were borrowed through Hurrian or Urartian. Given that these borrowings do not undergo changes characteristic of the development of Armenian from Proto-Indo-European, he dates their borrowing to a time before the written record, but after the Proto-Armenian language stage. Loan words from Iranian languages, along with the other ancient accounts such as that of Xenophon above, initially led linguists to erroneously classify Armenian as an Iranian language. Scholars such as Paul de Lagarde and F. Miller believe similarities between the two languages meant that Iranian and Armenian were the same language. The distinctness of Armenian was recognized when philologist Heinrich Hupschmann, 1875, the comparative method to distinguish two layers of Iranian words from the older Armenian vocabulary. It shows that Armenian often had two morphemes, the one concept, and the non-Iranian component yielded a consistent PIE pattern distinct from Iranian, and also demonstrated that the inflectional morphology was different from that in Iranian languages. Greco-Armenian hypothesis. The hypothesis that Greek is Armenian's closest living relative originates with Holger Pedersen, 1924, who noted that the number of Greek-Armenian lexical cognates is greater than that of agreements between Armenian and any other Indo-European language. Antoine Milet, 1925-1927, further investigated morphological and phonological agreement, postulating that the parent languages of Greek and Armenian were dialects in immediate geographical proximity in the Proto-Indo-European period. Milet's hypothesis became popular in the wake of his book Esquisse du Histoire de la langue latinate, 1936. 1960 does not go as far as postulating a Proto-Greco-Armenian stage, but he concludes that considering both the lexicon and morphology, most closely related to Armenian. Eric P. Hamp, 1976-91, supports the Greco-Armenian thesis, anticipating even a time when we should speak of Helleno-Armenian, meaning the postulate of a Greco-Armenian proto-language. Armenian shares the augment and a negator derived from the set phrase Proto-Indo-European language *NEH2LU never anything or always nothing, and the representation of word initial laryngeals by prosthetic vowels, and other phonological and morphological peculiarities with Greek. Nevertheless, as Fortson, 2004, comments, by the time we reach our earliest Armenian records in the 5th century AD, the evidence of any such early kinship has been reduced to a few tantalizing pieces. Many modern scholars have rejected the Greco-Armenian hypothesis, arguing that the linguistic proximity between the two languages has been overstated. Greco-Armeno-Aryan hypothesis. Greco-Armeno-Aryan is a hypothetical clade within the Indo-European family, ancestral to the Greek language, the Armenian language, and the Indo-Iranian languages. Greco-Aryan unity would have become divided into Proto-Greek and Proto-Indo-Iranian by the mid-3rd millennium BC. Conceivably, Proto-Armenian would have been located between Proto-Greek and Proto-Indo-Iranian, consistent with the fact that Armenian shares certain features only with Indo-Iranian, the Sodom change, but others only with Greek, S greater than H. Greco-Aryan has comparatively wide support among Indo-Europeanists for the Indo-European homeland to be located in the Armenian highlands, the Armenian hypothesis. Early and strong evidence was given by Euler's 1979 examination on shared features in Greek and Sanskrit nominal flexion. Used in tandem with the Greco-Armenian hypothesis, the Armenian language would also be included under the label Aryano-Greco-Armenia, splitting into Proto-Greek/Phrygian and Armeno-Aryan, ancestor of Armenian and Indo-Iranian. Evolution. Classical Armenian, Arm, Graber, attested from the 5th century to the 19th century as the literary standard, up to the 11th century also as a spoken language with different varieties, was partially superseded by Middle Armenian, attested from the 12th century to 18th century. Specialized literature prefers Old Armenian for Graber as a whole, and designates as classical the language used in the 5th century literature, post-classical from the late 5th to 8th centuries, and late Graber, that is the period covering the 8th to 11th centuries. Later, it was used mainly in religious and specialized literature, except for a revival during the early modern period, when attempts were made to establish it as the language of a literary renaissance, with neoclassical inclinations, through the creation and dissemination of literature in varied genres, especially by the Mekhidarists. The first Armenian periodical, Asrar, was published in Graber in 1794. The classical form bore of numerous words from Middle Iranian languages, primarily Parthian, and contained smaller inventories of loan words from Greek, Syriac, Arabic, Mongol, Persian, and indigenous languages such as Urartian. An effort to modernize the language in Bagratid Armenia and the Armenian Kingdom of Cilicia, 11-14th centuries, resulted in the addition of 2 more characters to the alphabet, and bringing the total number to 38. The Book of Lamentations by Gregory of Narev, 951-1003, is an example of the development of a literature and writing style of Old Armenian by the 10th century. In addition to elevating the literary style and vocabulary of the Armenian language by adding well above 1,000 new words. Through his other hymns and poems, Gregory paved the way for his successors to include secular themes and vernacular language in their writing. The thematic shift from mainly religious texts to writing with secular outlook further enhanced and enriched the vocabulary. A Word of Wisdom, a poem by Vavaneth Sargavath, devoted to a starling, legitimizes poetry devoted to nature, love, or female beauty. Gradually, the interests of the population at large were reflected in other literary works as well. Constantinius in Katsi and several others even take the unusual step of criticizing the ecclesiastic establishment and addressing the social issues of the Armenian homeland. However, these changes represented the nature of the literary style and syntax, but they did not constitute immense changes to the fundamentals of the grammar of the morphology of the language. Often, when writers codify a spoken dialect, other language users are then encouraged to imitate that structure through the literary device known as parallelism. In the 19th century, the traditional Armenian homeland was once again divided. This time Eastern Armenia was conquered from Tajar-Iran by the Russian Empire, while Western Armenia, containing 2/3 of historical Armenia, remained under Ottoman control. The antagonistic relationship between the Russian and Ottoman empires led to the creation of 2 separate and different environments under which Armenians lived. Halfway through the 19th century, 2 important concentrations of Armenian communities were further consolidated. Because of persecutions or the search for better economic opportunities, many Armenians living under Ottoman rule gradually moved to Istanbul, whereas Tbilisi became the center of Armenians living under Russian rule. These 2 cosmopolitan cities very soon became the primary poles of Armenian intellectual and cultural life. The introduction of new literary forms and styles, as well as many new ideas sweeping Europe, reached Armenians living in both regions. This created an ever-growing need to elevate the vernacular, Ashkarabar, to the dignity of a modern literary language, in contrast to the now anachronistic Graber. Numerous dialects existed in the traditional Armenian regions, which, different as they were, had certain morphological and phonetic features in common. Based on these features, 2 major standards emerged. Western Standard, the influx of immigrants from different parts of the traditional Armenian homeland to Istanbul crystallized the common elements of the regional dialect, paving the way for a style of writing that required a shorter and more flexible learning curve than Graber. Eastern Standard, the Yerevan dialect, provided the primary elements of Eastern Armenian, centered in Tbilisi, Georgia. Similar to the Western Armenian variant, the modern Eastern was in many ways more practical and accessible to the masses than Graver. Both centers vigorously pursued the promotion of Ashkarabar. The proliferation of newspapers in both versions, Eastern and Western, and the development of a network of schools where modern Armenian was taught, dramatically increased the rate of literacy, in spite of the obstacles by the colonial administrators, even in remote rural areas. The emergence of literary work, entirely written in the modern versions, increasingly legitimized the language's existence. By the turn of the 20th century, both varieties of the one modern Armenian language prevailed over Graver and opened the path to a new and simplified grammatical structure of the language in the two different cultural spheres. Apart from several morphological, phonetic, and grammatical differences, the largely common vocabulary and generally analogous rules of grammatical fundamentals allow users of one variant to understand the other as long as they are fluent in one of the literary standards. After World War I, the existence of the two modern versions of the same language was sanctioned even more clearly. The Armenian Soviet Socialist Republic, 1920 to 1990, used Eastern Armenian as its official language, whereas the diaspora created after the Armenian Genocide preserved the Western Armenian dialect. Modern changes. The two modern literary dialects, Western, originally associated with writers in the Ottoman Empire, and Eastern, originally associated with writers in the Russian Empire, removed almost all of their Turkish lexical influences in the 20th century, primarily following the Armenian Genocide. Phonology. Proto-Indo-European voiceless stop consonants are aspirated in the Proto-Armenian language, one of the circumstances that are often linked to the glottalic theory, a version of which postulated that the voiceless occlusives of Proto-Indo-European were aspirated. Stress. In Armenian, the stress falls on the last syllable, unless the last syllable contains the definite article or end, and the possessive article and, in which case it falls on the penultimate one. For instance, IT, M denotes GINI but VHN and DT. Exceptions to this rule are some words with the final letter in the Reformed orthography, and sometimes the ordinal numeral, etc., as well as, and a small number of other words. Morphology. Armenian corresponds with other Indo-European languages in its structure, but it shares distinctive sounds and features of its grammar with neighboring languages of the Caucasus region. Armenian is rich in combinations of consonants. Both classical Armenian and the modern spoken and literary dialects have a complicated system of noun declension, with 6 or 7 noun cases, but no gender. In modern Armenian, the use of auxiliary verbs to show tense, comparable to will in, he will go, has generally supplemented the inflected verbs of classical Armenian. Negative verbs are conjugated differently from positive ones, as in English, he goes and he does not go, in many tenses, otherwise adding only the negative to the positive conjugation. Grammatically, early forms of Armenian had much in common with classical Greek and Latin, but the modern language, like modern Greek, has undergone many transformations, adding some analytic features. Noun. Classical Armenian has no grammatical gender, not even in the pronouns, but there is a feminine suffix, uid. For example, Yurpistich, teacher, becomes Yurpistchahid, female teacher. This suffix, however, does not have a grammatical effect on the sentence. The nominal inflection, however, preserves several types of inherited stem classes. Nouns are declined for one of 7 cases: nominative, uxican, accusative, hagokan, locative, nergoican, genitive, secan, dative, procan, ablative, theasiacan, or instrumental, gorsiacan. Verb. Verbs in Armenian have an expansive system of conjugation with 2 main verb types in Eastern Armenian and 3 in Western Armenian, changing form based on tense, mood, and aspect. Dialect. Armenian is a pluricentric language, having 2 modern standardized forms, Eastern Armenian and Western Armenian. The most distinctive feature of Western Armenian is that it has undergone several phonetic mergers. These may be due to proximity to Arabic and Turkish-speaking communities. For example, Eastern Armenian speakers pronounce as T, as D, and as a tenuous occlusive T. Western Armenian has simplified the occlusive system into a simple division between voiced occlusives and aspirated ones. The first series corresponds to the tenuous series of Eastern Armenian, and the second corresponds to the Eastern voiced and aspirated series. Thus, the Western dialect pronounces both and as T and the letter as D. There is no precise linguistic border between one dialect and another because there is nearly always a dialect transition zone of some size between pairs of geographically identified dialects. Armenian can be divided into two major dialectal blocks and those blocks into individual dialects, though many of the Western Armenian dialects have become extinct due to the effects of the Armenian genocide. Besides, neither dialect is completely homogeneous. Any dialect can be subdivided into several subdialects. Although Western and Eastern Armenian is often described as different dialects of the same language, many subdialects are not readily mutually intelligible. Nevertheless, a fluent speaker of one of two greatly varying dialects who are also literate in one of the standards, when exposed to the other dialect for a while, will be able to understand the other with relative ease. Distinct Western Armenian varieties currently in use include Hamshesi, spoken by the Hemshin people. The dialects of Armenians of Kesef, Latakia, and Jizr al-Shadr, Syria, Anjar, Lebanon, and Bakisli, Samandog, Turkey, part of the Swadian dialect. Forms of the Karen dialect of Western Armenian are spoken by several 100,000 people in northern Armenia, mostly in Jumri, Arctic, Assyrian, and around 130 villages in Shirak province. 65 is by Armenians in Samtsi Javakiri province of Georgia, Occult site. Nakachiv and Ondan Armenians speak another Western Armenian variety based on the dialect of Armenians in Crimea, where they came from to establish the towns and surrounding villages in 1779. Western Armenian dialects are currently spoken also in Davar, formerly Norbayazet and Kamo, on the west of Lake Sevan, Abarin, and Tallinn in Armenia, Mush dialect, and by the large Armenian population residing in Abkhazia, where they are considered to be the first or second ethnic minority, or even equal in number to the local Abkhaz population. Orthography. The Armenian alphabet, Armenian, Romanized, Teos or Armenian, Romanized, Teos Abuban, is a graphically unique alphabetical writing system that is used to write the Armenian language. It was introduced around AD 405 by Mesrop Mashtop, an Armenian linguist and ecclesiastical leader, and originally contained 36 letters. Two more letters, O and F, were added in the Middle Ages. During the 1920s orthography reform in Soviet Armenia, a new letter, capital, was added, which was a ligature before and, whereas the letter was discarded and reintroduced as part of a new letter, which was a digraph before. This alphabet and associated orthography are used by most Armenian speakers of the Republic of Armenia and the countries of the former Soviet Union. Neither the alphabet nor the orthography has been adopted by diaspora Armenians, including Eastern Armenian speakers of Iran and all Western Armenian speakers, who keep using the traditional alphabet and spelling. Indo-European cognate. Armenian is an Indo-European language, so many of its Proto-Indo-European descended words are cognates of words in other Indo-European languages such as English, Latin, Greek, and Sanskrit. Armenian alphabet. The Armenian alphabet, Armenian, Teos or Teos Abuban, Eastern Armenian, Hajak Buban, Western Armenian, Hajak Ajputian, is an alphabetic writing system used to write Armenian. It was developed around 405 AD by Mesrop Mashtop, an Armenian linguist and ecclesiastical leader. The system originally had 36 letters. Eventually, 3 more were adopted. The alphabet was also in wide use in the Ottoman Empire around the 18th and 19th centuries. The Armenian word for alphabet is Abuban, named after the first 2 letters of the Armenian alphabet, Armenian, Ab and Armenian, Ben. Armenian is written horizontally, left to right. Alphabet. Example words: Arok, Hega, Higo, Tutsi, Yeleg, Fetid, Alaman, Ingwit, Cutag, Sham, Ignator, Lorbit, Ghost, Zakopan, Samarov, Gajihgh, Zanabar, Moot, Not, Evian, Eviachambium, Bomb, Jet AG, Raiden, Gaunt, Welloff, Tekit, Rome, ESEX, Outhead, Theater, KN, EIRAW, Bob, Fossil. Notes. Caret primarily used in classical orthography, after the reform used word initially, and in some compound words. Caret except in /ov, /who and /author, /those, people, in Eastern Armenian. Caret Iranian Armenians, who speak a sub-branch of Eastern Armenian, pronounce this letter as R, like in classical Armenian. Caret in classical orthography, and are considered a digraph, and a ligature, and, respectively. In Reformed orthography, they are separate letters of the alphabet. Caret in Reformed orthography, the letter appears only as a component of. In classical orthography, the letter usually represents /v/, except in the digraph /2/. The spelling reform, in Soviet Armenia, replaced with the trigraph. Caret except in the present tense of to be, /m/I am, /es/ur, thing, /n/vr, /f/ur, el/n/they are. Caret the letter is generally used only at the start or end of a word, and so the sound // is unwritten between consonants. Caret the ligature has no majuscule form. When capitalized it is written as two letters, classical, or reformed. At, pan, him, tot, yup, essay, yt, to, chi, ini, lum, pipe, stop, jin, hoh, dia, get, g, min, e, nu, chi, vo, cha, pot, chop, rock, essay, von, kyan, rock, to, yun, pure, hey, yon, so, say. Ligatures. Ancient Armenian manuscripts used many ligatures. Some of the commonly used ligatures are and, etc. Armenian print typefaces also include many ligatures. In the new orthography, the character is no longer a typographical ligature, but a distinct letter, placed in the new alphabetic sequence, before O. Punctuation. Armenian punctuation marks include. The caterpillar are used as ordinary quotation marks, and they are placed like French guillemets, just above the baseline, preferably vertically centered in the middle of the X height of Armenian lowercase letters. The computer-induced use of English-style single or double quotes, vertical, diagonal, or curly forms, placed above the baseline near the M height of uppercase or tall lowercase letters, and at the same level as accents, is strongly discouraged in Armenian as they look too much like other, unrelated, Armenian punctuations. Comma the storicate is used as a comma and placed as in English. The boot, which looks like a comma-shaped reversed apostrophe, is used as a short stop and placed in the same manner as the semicolon, to indicate a pause that is longer than that of a comma, but shorter than that of a colon. In many texts it is replaced by the single opening single quote, a six-shaped, or mirrored nine-shaped, or descending wedge-shaped elevated comma, or by a space engraved accent. The jacket, whose single dot on the baseline looks like a Latin full stop, is used as an ordinary colon, mainly to separate two closely related, but still independent, clauses, or when a long list of items follows. The verticat, whose vertically stacked two dots look like a Latin colon, is used as the ordinary full stop, and placed at the end of the sentence. Many texts in Armenian replace the verticat by the Latin colon as the difference is almost invisible at low resolution for normal text. But the difference may be visible in headings and titles, as the dots are often thicker to match the same optical weight and vertical strokes of letters, the dots filling the common X height of Armenian letters. Armenian punctuation mark, used inside a word. The yezamnat is used as the ordinary Armenian hyphen. The padud was used as an Armenian abbreviation mark and was placed on top of an abbreviated word to indicate that it was abbreviated. It is now obsolete. The apadards are used as a spacing apostrophe, which looks either like a vertical stick or wedge pointing down, or as an elevated nine-shaped comma, or as a small superscript left toe right closing parenthesis or half ring, only in Western Armenian, to indicate elision of a vowel, usually //. The following Armenian punctuation mark, placed above and slightly to the right of the vowel, whose tone is modified to reflect intonation. The Yerkeratsman and Shan, which looks like a diagonally rising tilde, is used as an exclamation mark. The Shesht, which looks like a non-spacing, acute accent, is used as an emphasis mark. The Hartzikan and Shan is used like a question mark. History and development. Possible antecedents. One of the classical accounts about the existence of an Armenian alphabet before Mashtoth comes from Philo of Alexandria, 20 BCE, 50 CE, who in his writings notes that the work of the Greek philosopher and historian Metrodorus of Sextus, ca. 145 BCE, 70 BCE, on animals, was translated into Armenian. Metrodorus was a close friend and a court historian of the Armenian Emperor Tigran the Great, and also wrote his biography. A 3rd century Roman theologian, Hippolytus of Rome, 170 to 235 CE, in his Chronicles, while writing about his contemporary, Emperor Severus Alexander, reigned 208 to 235 CE, mentions that the Armenians are amongst those nations who have their distinct alphabet. Philostratus the Athenian, a sophist of the 2nd and 3rd century CE, wrote, "And they say that a leopardess was once caught in Pamphylia, which was wearing a chain around its neck, and the chain was of gold, and on it was inscribed in Armenian lettering, the king Arthasis to the Nisian god." According to the 5th century Armenian historian Moses of Corinth, Bardesanes of Edessa, 154 to 222 CE, who founded the Gnostic current of the Bardasanites, went to the Armenian castle of Ani, and there read the work of a pre-Christian Armenian priest named Vadyab, written in the Mithraic, Median, or Mirian lid of Mir or of Mitra, the Armenian national god of light, truth, and the sun, script of the Armenian temples, in which, amongst other histories, an episode was noted of the Armenian king. Tigran VII reigned from 144 to 161, and again 164 to 186 CE, erecting a monument on the tomb of his brother, the Mithraic high priest of the kingdom of Greater Armenia, Mazan. Moses of Corinth notes that Bardesanes translated this Armenian book into Syriac, Aramaic, and later also into Greek. Another important evidence for the existence of a pre-Mashtokhtian alphabet is the fact that the Armenian heathen pantheon included Tyr, who was the patron god of writing and science. A 13th century Armenian historian, Vardan Aravelsi, in his history, notes that during the reign of the Armenian king Leo the Magnificent, reigned 1187 to 1219, artifacts were found bearing Armenian inscriptions of the heathen kings of the ancient times. The evidence that the Armenian scholars of the Middle Ages knew about the existence of a pre-Mashtokhtian alphabet can also be found in other medieval works, including the first book composed in Mashtokhtian alphabet by the pupil of Mashtoth, Surreal, in the first half of the 5th century. Surreal notes that Mashtoth was told of the existence of ancient Armenian letters, which he was initially trying to integrate into his alphabet. Creation by Mashtoth. The Armenian alphabet was introduced by Mesrop Mashtoth and Isaac of Armenia, Kahak in 405 CE. Medieval Armenian sources also claim that Mashtoth invented the Georgian and Caucasian Albanian alphabets around the same time. However, most scholars link the creation of the Georgian script to the process of Christianization of Iberia, a core Georgian kingdom of Kartli 10. The alphabet was, therefore, most probably created between the conversion of Iberia under Mirian III, 326, or 337, and the Burel cut inscriptions of 430. Contemporaneously with the Armenian alphabet. Traditionally, the following phrase translated from Solomon's Book of Proverbs is said to be the first sentence to be written down in Armenian by Mashtoth. Anal Demistician, Yevgrat, Imanol, Van Tankaroi. No wisdom and instruction, perceive the words as understanding. Book of Proverbs, 1:2. Various scripts have been credited with being the prototype for the Armenian alphabet. Pahlavi was the priestly script in Armenia before the introduction of Christianity, and Syriac, along with Greek, was one of the alphabets of Christian scripture. Armenian shows some similarities to both. However, the consensus is that Armenian is modeled after the Greek alphabet, supplemented with letters from a different source or sources for Armenian sounds not found in Greek. The evidence for this is the Greek order of the Armenian alphabet, the our ligature for the vowel /u, / as in Greek, and the shapes of some letters which seem derived from a variety of cursive Greek. It has been speculated by some scholars in African studies, following Dmitry Oldrog, that the GEAZ script influenced certain letter shapes. But this has not been supported by any experts in Armenian studies. There are 4 principal calligraphic hands of the script. Architecture, or ironclad letters, seen as Mesroc's original, was used in manuscripts from the 5th to 13th century and is still preferred for epigraphic inscriptions. Mullabur, or cursive, was invented in the 10th century and became popular in the 13th. It has been the standard printed form since the 16th century. Nogagur, or minuscule, invented initially for speed, was extensively used in the Armenian diaspora in the 16th to 18th century, and later became popular in printing. Chegagir, or slanted writing, is now the most common form. The earliest known example of the script's usage was a dedicatory inscription over the west door of the Church of St. Sargat in Tikar. Based on the known individuals mentioned in the inscription, it has been dated to the 480s. The earliest known surviving example of usage outside of Armenia is a mid-6th century mosaic inscription in the chapel of St. Polyaptos in Jerusalem. A papyrus discovered in 1892 at Fayyum and containing Greek words written in Armenian script has been dated on historical grounds to before the Arab conquest of Egypt, i.e. before 640, and on paleographic grounds to the 6th century and perhaps even the late 5th century. It is now in the Bibliothèque Nationale de France. The earliest surviving manuscripts were written in Armenian using Armenian script date from the 7th to 8th century. Certain shifts in the language were at first not reflected in the orthography. The digraph, though, followed by a consonant used to be pronounced O, as in luau, in classical Armenian, but due to a sound shift it came to be pronounced O and has since the 13th century been written O. For example, classical, or, say, became pronounced or and is now written or. One word has kept off, now pronounced /av/pigeon, and there are a few proper names still having a before a consonant, Taurus, Faustus, etc. For this reason, today native Armenian words are beginning with the letter O, although this letter was taken from the Greek alphabet to write foreign words beginning with OO. The number and order of the letters have changed over time. In the Middle Ages, 2 new letters, O, F, were introduced to better represent foreign sounds. This increased the number of letters from 36 to 38. From 1922 to 1924, Soviet Armenia adopted a reformed spelling of the Armenian language. The reform changed the digraph and the ligature into 2 new letters, but it generally did not change the pronunciation of individual letters. That outside of the Soviet sphere, including all Western Armenians, as well as Eastern Armenians in Iran, has rejected the reformed spelling, and continue to use the traditional Armenian orthography. They criticize some aspects of the reforms, see the footnotes of the chart, and allege political motives behind them. Use for other languages. For about 250 years, from the early 18th century until around 1950, more than 2,000 books in the Turkish language were printed using the Armenian alphabet. Not only did Armenians read this Turkish in Armenian script, so did the non-Armenian, including the Ottoman Turkish, elite. An American correspondent in Marash in 1864 called the alphabet Armena Turkish, describing it as consisting of 31 Armenian letters and infinitely superior to the Arabic or Greek alphabets for rendering Turkish. This Armenian script was used alongside the Arabic script on official documents of the Ottoman Empire written in Ottoman Turkish. For instance, the first novel to be written in Turkish in the Ottoman Empire was Barton Pasha's 1851 Akabi Hikayesai, written in the Armenian script. When the Armenian Dizian family managed the Ottoman Mint during the reign of Abdülhamid, they kept records in Armenian script, but the Turkish language. From the middle of the 19th century, the Armenian alphabet was also used for books written in the Kurdish language in the Ottoman Empire. The Armenian script was also used by Turkish-speaking, assimilated Armenians between the 1840s and 1890s. Constantinople was the main center of Armenian scripted Turkish press. This portion of the Armenian press declined in the early 20th century, but continued until the Armenian genocide of 1915. In areas inhabited by both Armenians and Assyrians, Syriac texts were occasionally written in the Armenian script, although the opposite phenomenon, Armenian texts, are written in Surto, the Western Syriac script is more common. The Kipchak-speaking Armenian Christians of Sidolia and Galicia used an Armenian alphabet to produce an extensive amount of literature between 1524 and 1669. The Armenian script, along with the Georgian, was used by the poet Sidak Nova in his Armenian poems. An Armenian alphabet was an official script for the Kurdish language in 1921 to 1928 in Soviet Armenia. Character encoding. The Armenian alphabet was added to the Unicode standard in version 1.0 in October 1991. It is assigned the range U plus 05300058F. 5 Armenian ligatures are encoded in the alphabetic presentation forms block, code point range U and FB13-FB17. On June 15, 2011, the Unicode Technical Committee, UTC, accepted the Armenian dram sign for inclusion in the future versions of the Unicode standard and assigned a code for the sign, U plus 058F, Armenian dram. In 2012, the sign was finally adopted in the Armenian block of ISO and Unicode International Standards. The Armenian Eternity sign, since 2013, a designated point in Unicode U plus 058D, right-facing Armenian Eternity sign, and another for its left-facing variant, U plus 058E, left-facing Armenian Eternity sign. Legacy. Armestii. Armestii is a character encoding developed between 1991 and 1999. Armestii was popular on the Windows 9 X operating system. With the development of the Unicode standard and its availability on modern operating systems, it has been rendered obsolete. Arison-compatible. Arison-compatible fonts are based on the encoding of the original Arison fonts by Hrant Papazian. He started encoding in use since 1986, which simply replaces the Latin characters, among others, of the ASCII encoding with Armenian ones. For example, the ASCII code for the Latin character A65 represents the Armenian character. While Arison-compatible fonts were popular among many users on Windows 9F, the encoding has been deprecated by the Unicode standard.
This is brought to you by the strange, the bizarre, the unusual. I like it. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, please like, subscribe, share, and comment. We love feedback. This is brought to you by the strange, the bizarre, the unusual. I like it on both Facebook and YouTube.
Romani people. The Romani people. The Romani people are also known by a variety of other names, in English as gypsies or gypsies, seen by some as a slur, as discussed below, and Roma, in Greek as gamma phi tau omicron iota, Pictoid, or tau sigma iota gamma gamma nu omicron iota, Tziganoid, in Central and Eastern Europe as Thingoni, and variants, in France as Gitans besides the dated Bohemians, Manouches, in Italy as Zingari and Gitani, in Spain as Gitanos, and in Portugal as Ciganos. Self-designation also varies. In Central and Eastern Europe, Roma is common. The Romani of England call themselves, in Anglo-Romani, Romanical, those of Scandinavia, in Scandinavian Romani dialect, Romanicel. In German-speaking Europe, the self-designation is Sinti, in France Manish, while the groups of Spain, Wales, and Finland use Kalo/Kale, from Kalo meaning black in Romani language. There are numerous subgroups and clans with their self-designations, such as the Kalderash, Machvaya, Boyash, Lovari, Magyar, Zoraxide, Latari, etc. In the English language, according to OED, Rom is a noun, with the plural Roma or Roms, and an adjective, while Romani is also a noun, with the plural Romanis, and an adjective. Both Rom and Romani have been in use in English since the 19th century as an alternative for gypsy. Romani is also spelled Romani or Romani. Sometimes, Rom and Romani are spelled with a double R, i.e. Rom and Romani, particularly in Romania to distinguish from the Romanian endonym, Romani. This is well established in Romani itself since it represents a phoneme, /R, also written as R and RH, which in some Romani dialects has remained different from the one written with a single R. Roma is a term primarily used in political contexts to refer to the Romani people as a whole. Still, some subgroups of Romani do not self-identify as Roma, therefore some scholars avoid using the term Roma as not all Romani subgroups accept the term. Because all Romanis use the word Romani as an adjective, the term began to be used as a noun for the entire ethnic group. Today, the term Romani is used by some organizations, including the United Nations and the U.S. Library of Congress. However, the Council of Europe and other organizations use the term Roma to refer to Romani people around the world and recommended that Romani be restricted to the language and culture, Romani language, Romani culture. Etymology. The demonyms of the Romani people, Lam and Dom, share the same etymological origin. Reflecting Sanskrit Oma, a man of low caste, living by singing and music. Gypsy and gypsy. The English term gypsy or gypsy. is commonly used to indicate Romani people, tinkers and travelers, and use of the word gypsy in modern-day English is so pervasive, and is a legal term under English law, see below, that some Romani organizations use it in their organizational names. However, according to the few who study the Romani people and a large percent of the Romani people, the word has been tainted by its use as a racial slur and a pejorative connoting illegality and irregularity. And some modern dictionaries either recommend avoiding use of the word gypsy entirely or give it a negative or warning label. The Oxford English Dictionary states, a gypsy is a member of a wandering race, by themselves called Romani, of Indian origin, which first appeared in England about the beginning of the 16th century. According to the OED, the word was first used in English in 1514, with several more uses in the same century, and both Edmund Spenser and William Shakespeare used this word. This exonym is sometimes written with a capital letter, to show that it designates an ethnic group. The Spanish term gitano, the French term gitan, and the Basque term ejido have the same origin. During the 16th and 17th centuries, the name was written in various ways: Egyptian, Egyptian. The word gypsy/gypsy comes from the spellings, which had lost the initial capital E, and that is one reason that it is often spelled with the initial G in lowercase. As time elapsed, the notion of the gypsy/gypsy altered to include other associated stereotypes such as nomadism and exoticism. John Matthews in the World Atlas of Divination refers to gypsies as wise women. Colloquially, gypsy/gypsy is used to refer to any person perceived by the speaker as fitting the gypsy stereotypes. Use in English law. Gypsy has several developing and overlapping meanings under English law. Under the Caravan Sites and Control of Development Act 1960, gypsies are defined as persons of nomadic habit of life, whatever their race or origin, but does not include members of an organized group of traveling showmen, or persons engaged in traveling circuses, traveling together as such. The definition includes such groups as New Age travelers, as well as Irish travelers, and Romani. Gypsies of Romani origins have been a recognized ethnic group for Race Relations Act 1976 since Commission for Racial Equality v. Dutton 1989, and Irish travelers in England and Wales since O'Leary v. Allied Domec 2000. Having already gained recognition in Northern Ireland in 1997. List of names: Belarusian, Tsigane. Bulgarian. Tigani, Roma people. Tsiganin, male Roma. Tsiganka, female Roma. Tsiganch, Roma child. Bosnian, Tsigani. Croatian, Tsigani. Czech, Tsigani/Romov. Macedonian, Tsigani. Polish, Tsigani. Russian, Tsigane. Serbian, Tsigani. Slovak, Tsigani. Slovene, Tsigani. Ukrainian, Tsigani. Danish, Tsigodnir. German, Visioner. Dutch, Visioner. Icelandic, Tsigoner. Norwegian, Bukmal, Tsigoinera. Norsk, Tsigoinerar. Swedish, Visionaire. French, Tsiganes, Tsigans. Galician, Gitanos. Italian, Zingari, Zigani. Portuguese, Tsiganos, Zingaros. Romanian, Tigani. Spanish, Gitanos, Zingaros. Hungarian, Tigani. Latvian, Tigani. Lithuanian, Tsiganite. Turkish, Tsigin. Albanian, Tsigan. Finnish, Mustalainen. Azerbaijani, Harasi. The name originates with Byzantine Greek tau sigma gamma gamma alpha nu omicron iota, adsyncanoid, Latin adsyncani, or theta gamma gamma alpha nu omicron iota, a syncanoid, literally untouchables, a term applied to the sect of the Melchisedekians. The Adsyncani appears in an 11th century text preserved in Mt. Athos, the life of St. George the Athonite, written in the Georgian language, as the Samaritan people, descendants of Simon the magician, named Adsyncani, who were renowned sorcerers and villains. In the text, Emperor Constantine Monomachos employs the Adsincani to exterminate wild animals, who were destroying the game in the Imperial Park of Philippation. Bohemians. Because many Romanis living in France had come via Bohemia, they were referred to as Bohemians. This term would later be adopted by the French to refer to a particular artistic and impoverished lifestyle of an individual, known as Bohemianism. Other. Afrikaans, Bejoner after Dutch. Armenian, Nuf. Arabic, Bajar. Kurdish, Farasi, from Turkish, Dom. Basque, Ejido, Birhain, in the northern Basque country, Aromingsala, or Basque-speaking Romanese. Georgian, Bosivi. Persian, Poli. Japanese, Roma.
Chinese, 罗姆人 Lomu人
This is brought to you by the strange, the bizarre, the unusual. I like it. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, please like, subscribe, share, make comments. We love feedback. This is brought to you by the strange, the bizarre, the unusual. I like it on both Facebook and YouTube.
Romani people. Romani language. Not to be confused with the Romanian, Roman, Roman, or Romansh languages. Romani, /Romni, /. Also Romani, Romani, Romani Chim, is any of several languages of the Romani people belonging to the Indo-Aryan branch of the Indo-European language family. According to ethnologue, 7 varieties of Romani are divergent enough to be considered languages of their own. The largest of these are Vlach Romani, about 500,000 speakers, Balkan Romani, 600,000, and Sint Romani, 300,000. Some Romani communities speak mixed languages based on the surrounding language with retained Romani-derived vocabulary. These are known by linguists as para-Romani varieties, rather than dialects of the Romani language itself. The differences between the various varieties can be as large as, for example, the differences between the Slavic languages. Name. Speakers of the Romani language usually refer to the language as Romani Chib, the Romani language, or Romanes in a Rom way. This derives from the Romani word Rom, meaning either a member of the Romani group or husband. This is also where the term Roma derives in English, although some Roma groups refer to themselves using other demonyms, e.g. Pale, Sinti, etc. The English spelling Romani language, with 2 initial RS, may also be found, reflecting a different transcription of the Romani phoneme R. Before the late 19th century, English language texts usually referred to the language as the gypsy language. While some consider it derogatory, in the USA, gypsy is still the most understood term, as Romani is not in common use there. Classification. In the 18th century, it was shown by comparative studies that Romani belonged to the Indo-European language family. In 1763, Value Istvan, a Calvinist pastor from Setomar in Transylvania, was the first to notice the similarity between Romani and Indo-Aryan by comparing the Romani dialect of here with the language, perhaps Sinhalese, spoken by 3 Sri Lankan students he met in the Netherlands. This was followed by the linguist Johann Christian Christoph Rudiger, 1751-1822, whose book Von der Sprache, und die Herkunft der a U.S. Indian, 1782, proved Romani was descended from Sanskrit. This prompted the philosopher Christian Jacob Krauss
This is brought to you by the strange, the bizarre, the unusual. I like it on both Facebook and YouTube. This is brought to you by the strange, the bizarre, the unusual. I like it on both Facebook and YouTube.
Romani people. Romani language. Not to be confused with the Romanian, Roman, Roman, or Romansh languages. Romani, /Romani, ro, /. Also Romani, Romani, Romani Chim, is any of several languages of the Romani people belonging to the Indo-Aryan branch of the Indo-European language family. According to ethnologue, 7 varieties of Romani are divergent enough to be considered languages of their own. The largest of these are Latin, about 500,000 speakers. Balkan Romani, 600,000. And Sint Romani, 300,000. Some Romani communities speak mixed languages based on the surrounding language with retained Romani-derived vocabulary. These are known by linguists as para-Romani varieties, rather than dialects of the Romani language itself. The differences between the various varieties can be as large as, for example, the differences between the Slavic languages. Name. Speakers of the Romani language usually refer to the language as Romani Chib, the Romani language, or Romanes in a Rom way. This derives from the Romani word Rom, meaning either a member of the Romani group or husband. This is also where the term Roma derives in English, although some Roma groups refer to themselves using other demonyms, e.g. Pale, Sinti, etc. The English spelling Romani language, with 2 initial RS, may also be found, reflecting a different transcription of the Romani phoneme R. Before the late 19th century, English language texts usually referred to the language as the gypsy language. While some consider it derogatory, in the USA, gypsy is still the most understood term, as Romani is not in common use there. Classification. In the 18th century, it was shown by comparative Indo-European language family. In 1763, Value Ibsen, a Calvinist pastor from Vladimir in Transylvania, the similarity between Romani and Indo-Aryan by comparing the Romani dialect appear with the language, perhaps in Holland, spoken by 3 Sri Lankan students he met in the Netherlands. This was followed by the linguist Johann Christian Christoph Rudiger, 1751-1822, whose book Von der Sprache, und die Herkunft des a U.S. Indian, 1782, proved Romani was descended from Sanskrit. This prompted the philosopher Christian Jacob Krauss to collect linguistic evidence by systematically interviewing the Roma in Königsberg prison. Krauss's findings were never published, but they may have influenced or laid the groundwork for later linguists, especially August Todd and his pioneering Darstellung des Sugar in Europa, UND Asian, 1844-45. Research into the way the Romani dialect branched out was started in 1872 by the Slavicist Franz Nikolasic in a series of essays. However, it was the philologist Ralph Turner's 1927 article The Position of Romani in Indo-Aryan that served as the basis for the integrating Romani into the history of Indian languages. Romani is an Indo-Aryan language that is part of the Balkan Scratch Fund. It is the only new Indo-Aryan spoken exclusively outside the Indian subcontinent. Romani is sometimes classified in the Central Zone or Northwestern Zone Indo-Aryan languages and sometimes treated as a group of its own. Romani shares several features with the Central Zone languages. The most significant isoglosses are the shift of Old Indo-Aryan R to U or I, Sanskrit SR-, Romani sun to here, and K to KH, Sanskrit Aki, Romani Jayokai. However, unlike other Central Zone languages, Romani preserves many dental clusters. Romani Trin, 3, Ral brother, compare Hindi Tin, 5. This implies that Romani split from the Central Zone languages before the Middle Indo-Aryan period. However, Romani shows some features of New Indo-Aryan, such as erosion of the original nominal case system towards the nominative / oblique dichotomy, with new grammaticalized case suffixes added on. This means that the Romani exodus from India could not have happened until late in the 1st millennium. Many words are similar to the Marwari and Lambadi languages spoken in large parts of India. However, Romani is nearer to the Marwari, spoken in Rajasthan, India. Romani also shows some similarity to the Northwestern Zone languages. In particular, The grammaticalization of enclitic pronouns as person markers on verbs, heard or done plus mimi kurjan, I did, is also found in languages such as Kashmiri in China. This evidences a northwest migration during the split from the central zone languages consistent with later migration to Europe. Based on these data, Macross, 2006, views Romani as kind of Indian hybrid, a Central Indic dialect that had undergone partial convergence with Northern Indic languages. In terms of its grammatical structure, Romani is conservative in maintaining almost intact the Middle Indo-Aryan present tense person concord markers, and in maintaining consonantal endings for nominal case, both features that have been eroded in most other modern Indo-Aryan languages. Romani shows a number of phonetic changes that distinguish it from other Indo-Aryan languages, in particular, the devoicing of voiced aspirates, bh, dh, gh, ph, th, kh, shift of medial td to l, of short a to e, initial kh to f, rhoticization of ret reflex, h etc. to r, and shift of inflectional a to o. After leaving the Indian subcontinent, Romani was heavily affected by contact with European languages. The most significant of these was medieval Greek, which contributed lexically, phonemically, and grammatically to early Romani, 10th to 13th centuries. This includes inflectional affixes for nouns and verbs that are still productive with borrowed vocabulary, the shift to the word order, and the adoption of a proposed definite article. Early Romani also borrowed from Armenian and Persian. Romani and Damari share some similarities: agglutination of postpositions of the second layer, or case marking clitics, the nominal stems, concord markers for the past tense, the neutralization of gender marking in the plural, and the use of the oblique case as an accusative. This has prompted much discussion about the relationships between these two languages. Damari was once thought to be the sister language of Romani, the two languages having split after the departure from the Indian subcontinent, but more recent research suggests that the differences between them are significant enough to treat them as two separate languages within the Central Zone, Hindustani, group of languages. The Dam and the Ram therefore likely descend from two different migration waves out of India, separated by several centuries. History. The first attestation of Romani is from 1542 AD in Western Europe. The earlier history of the Romani language is completely undocumented and is understood primarily through comparative linguistic evidence. The linguistic evaluation carried out in the 19th century by Potts, 1845, and Miklosic, 1882-1888, showed the Romani language to be a new Indo-Aryan language, NIA, not a Middle Indo-Aryan, missing in action, establishing that the ancestors of the Romani could not have left India significantly earlier than AD 1000. The principal argument favoring a migration during or after the transition period to NIA is the loss of the old system of nominal case, and its reduction to just a two-way case system, nominative versus oblique. A secondary argument concerns the system of gender differentiation. Romani has only two genders, masculine and feminine. Middle Indo-Aryan languages, named missing in action, generally had three genders, masculine, feminine, and neuter, and some modern Indo-Aryan languages retain this old system even today. It is argued that the loss of the neuter gender did not occur until the transition to NIA. Most of the neuter nouns became masculine, while a few feminines, like the neuter, Agni, in the Prakrit became the feminine, Ag, in Hindi and Jag in Romani. The parallels in grammatical gender evolution between Romani and other NIA languages have been cited as evidence that the forerunner of Romani remained on the Indian subcontinent until a later period, perhaps even as late as the 10th century. There is no historical proof to clarify who the ancestors of the Romani were or what motivated them to emigrate from the Indian subcontinent, but there are various theories. The influence of Greek, and to a lesser extent of the Iranian languages, like Persian and Kurdish and Armenian, points to a prolonged stay in Anatolia after the departure from South Asia. The Mongol invasion of Europe beginning in the first half of the 13th century triggered another westward migration. The Romani arrived in Europe and afterwards spread to the other continents. The great distances between the scattered Romani groups led to the development of local community distinctions. The differing local influences have greatly affected the modern language. splitting it into several different, originally exclusively regional, dialects. Today, Romani is spoken by small groups in 42 European countries. A project at Manchester University in England is transcribing Romani dialects, many of which are on the brink of extinction, for the first time. Dialects. Today's dialects of Romani are differentiated by the vocabulary accumulated since their departure from Anatolia, as well as through divergent phonemic evolution and grammatical features. Many Roma no longer speak the language or speak various new contact languages from the local language with the addition of Romani vocabulary. Dialect differentiation began with the dispersal of the Romani from the Balkans around the 14th century and on, and with their settlement in areas across Europe in the 16th and 17th centuries. The two most significant areas of divergence are the southeast, with the epicenter of the northern Balkans, and west-central Europe, with epicenter Germany. The central dialects were placed as ingrammatical paradigms with H. The west-northern dialects append J-, simplify NDR to R, retain N in the nominalizer Ivan/Ivan, and lose adjectival past tense in intransitive, yellow, jelly jelgency / she went. Other isoglosses, ESP demonstrative, 2/3PL perfective concord markers, loan verb markers, motivate the division into Balkan, Black, Central, Northeast, and Northwest dialects. A long-standing common categorization was a division between the Blacks, from Bloc, and non-Black dialects. Blacks is those Roma people who lived many centuries in the territory of Romania in slavery. The main distinction between the two groups is the degree to which their vocabulary is borrowed from Romanian. Bernard Gilead Smith first made this distinction and coined the term blacks in 1915 in the book The Report on the Gypsy Tribes of Northeast Bulgaria. The Blacks dialect group, now seen as just one of about 10 groups, see below, has nevertheless become very widespread geographically. Matros, 2002-2005, has argued for a theory of geographical classification of Romani dialects, which is based on the diffusion in space of innovations. According to this theory, early Romani, as spoken in the Byzantine Empire, was brought to Western and other parts of Europe through population migrations of Rom in the 14th to 15th centuries. These groups settled in the various European regions during the 16th and 17th centuries, acquiring fluency in a variety of contact languages. Changes emerged then, which spread in wave-like patterns, creating the dialect differences attested today. According to Matros, there were two major centers of innovations. Some changes emerged in Western Europe, Germany and vicinity, spreading eastwards. Other emerged in the Wallachian area, spreading to the west and south. Also, many regional and local isoglosses formed, creating a complex wave of language boundaries. Matros points to the processes of J and Aero-J-Ro-Eg and O-V-Jav-E as typical examples of west to east diffusion, and of the addition of prosthetic A and B-Jav-Abajav as a typical east to west spread. He concludes that dialect differences formed in situ, and not as a result of different waves of migration. According to this classification, the dialects are split as follows. Northern Romani dialects in Western and Northern Europe, Southern Italy, and the Iberian Peninsula. Central Romani dialects from Southern Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, Carpathian Ruthenia, and Southeastern Austria. Balkan Romani dialects, including the Black Sea Coast dialects. Blacks Romani dialects, chiefly associated with the historical Wallachian and Transylvanian regions, without migrants in various regions throughout Europe and beyond. SIL Ethnologue has the following classification. Balkan Romani, Arlesia, Zambotsi, Finners Romani, Northern Romani, Baltic Romani, Estonian Romani, Latvian Romani, Lettish Romani, North Russian Romani, Polish Romani, White Russian Romani, Carpathian Romani, Central Romani, East Slovak Romani, Moravian Romani, West Slovak Romani, Finnish Kalo Romani, Finns Romani, Abritsisi, Serbian Romani, Slovenian Croatian Romani, Welsh Romani, Black Romani, Turari, Turarico, Cheesemakers, Eastern Black Romani, Pizza, Gather, Grekurja, Greco, Calderash, Coppersmith, Calderashiko, Lovari, Lovarico, Majvano, Majvango, North Albanian Romani, Sedentary Bulgaria Romani, Sedentary Romania Romani, Serbo-Bosnian Romani, South Albanian Romani, Ukraine Moldavia Romani, Sagunsi. In a series of articles, beginning from 1982, Marcel Courthier proposed a different kind of classification. He concentrates on the dialectal diversity of Romani in 3 successive strata of expansion, using the criteria of phonological and grammatical changes. Finding the common linguistic features of the dialect, he presents the historical evolution from the first stratum, the dialects closest to the Anatolian Romani of the 13th century, to the second and third strata. He also names as Pogadialects, after the Pogadi dialect of Great Britain, those with only a Romani vocabulary grafted into a non-Romani language, normally referred to as Para-Romani. Megari, of Tirana, Kabui, of Korka, Banduri, Drindari, Arli, Ugurji, Madhiri, of Pristina, Ursari, Rikanari, Koitori, Thoraxane, Parvatici, Polskaroma, Gale, from Finland, Sinto-Manish, and the so-called Baltic dialect. Turkari, of Pajorica, Berbeti, Gambashi, Kachiri, Philippi, of Agia Vergara, Calderash, Lovari, Machvano. Mixed languages. Some Romanis have developed mixed languages, chiefly by retaining Romani lexical items and adopting second language grammatical structures, including in Northern Europe, Anglo-Romani, in England, Scottish Cant, in lowland Scotland, Canto-Romani, in Norway and Sweden, on the Iberian Peninsula and France, Aeromincula, in the Basque Country, Polo, in Portugal and Spain, Manouche, a variant of Cid Romani in France and its Mediterranean borders from Spain to Italy. In Southeast Europe, Romano-Greek, Romano-Serbian. In the Caucasus, Armenia, Lamavrin. Geographic distribution. Romani is the only Indo-Aryan language spoken almost exclusively in Europe, apart from immigrant populations. The most concentrated areas of Romani speakers are found in Romania. Although there are no reliable figures for the exact number of Romani speakers, it may be the largest minority language of the European Union. Status. The language is recognized as a minority language in many countries. At present, the only places in the world where Romani is employed as an official language are the Republic of Kosovo, only regionally, not nationally, and the Pseudo-Orizari municipality within the administrative borders of the North Macedonian capital of Skopje. The first efforts to publish in Romani were undertaken in the interwar Soviet Union, using the Cyrillic script, and in communist Yugoslavia. Some traditional communities have expressed opposition to codifying Romani or having it used in public functions. However, the mainstream trend has been towards standardization. Different variants of the language are now in the process of being codified in those countries with high Romani populations, for example, Slovakia. There are also some attempts currently aimed at the creation of a unified standard language. A standardized form of Romani is used in Serbia, and in Serbia's autonomous province of Vojvodina, Romani is one of the officially recognized languages of minorities, having its radio stations in news broadcasts. In Romania, a country with a sizable Romani minority, 3.3% of the total population, there is a unified teaching system of the Romani language for all dialects spoken in the country. This is primarily a result of the work of Gheorghe Săraut, who made Romani textbooks for teaching Romani children in the Romani language. He teaches a purified, mildly prescriptive language, choosing the original Indo-Aryan words and grammatical elements from various dialects. The pronunciation is mostly like that of the dialect from the first stratum. When there are more variants in the dialect, the variant that most closely resembles the oldest forms is chosen, like biap instead of abiap, avion, akana instead of akanak, shunup instead of ashanap or ashanop, etc. An effort is also made to derive new words from the vocabulary already in use, i.e., Siriatno, airplane, bordering, slide rule, palpaletic ignasto, retrospectively, tashnavni, adjective. There is an ever-changing set of borrowings from Romanian as well, including such terms as vremia, weather, time, primaria, town hall, krishka, cream, pinto, saint, holy. Hindi-based neologisms include bijli, both, electricity, misal, example, chitro, drawing, design, lekapan, writing, while there are also English-based neologisms, like printicero to print. Romani is now used on the internet, in some local media, and some countries, as a medium of instruction. Orthography. Historically, Romani was an exclusively unwritten language. For example, Slovakian Romani's orthography was codified only in 1971. The overwhelming majority of academic and non-academic literature produced currently in Romani is written using a Latin-based orthography. The proposal to form a unified Romani alphabet and one standard Romani language by either choosing one dialect as a standard or by merging more dialects have not been successful. Instead, the trend is towards a model where each dialect has its writing system. Among native speakers, the most common pattern for individual authors to use an orthography based on the writing system of the dominant contact language, thus Romanian in Romania, Hungarian in Hungary, and so on. To demonstrate the differences, the phrase /Romani tib /, which means Romani language in all the dialects, can be written as Romani Sib, Romani Cid, Romani Tib, Romani Tkiwi, Romani Tkais, Romani Sib, Romanic Chub, Romani Chib, Romani Chib, Romani Chib, Romaji Shib, and so on. The currently observable trend, however, appears to be the adoption of loosely English and Czech-oriented orthography, developed spontaneously by native speakers for use online and through email. Phonology. The Romani sound system is not highly unusual among European languages. Its most marked features are a three-way contrast between unvoiced, voiced, and aspirated stops, PTKC, BDGDZ, and PHTHKHCH. And the presence in some dialects of a second rhotic R, realized as uvular R, a long trill R, or red reflex R or R. Eastern and Southeastern European Romani dialects commonly have palatalized consonants, either distinctive or allophonic. Some dialects add the central vowel or I. Vowel length is often distinctive in Western European Romani dialects. Loans from contact languages often allow other non-native phonemes. Conservative dialects of Romani have final stress, except for some unstressed affixes, e.g. the vocative ending, the case ending added onto the accusative noun, and the remoteness tense marker. Central and Western European dialects often have shifted stress earlier in the word. At the end of a word, voiced consonants become voiceless, and aspirated ones lose aspiration. Morphology. Nominals. Nominals in Romani are nouns, adjectives, pronouns, and numerals. Some sources describe articles as nominals. The indefinite article is often borrowed from the local contact language. Types. General Romani is an unusual language in having two classes of nominals based on the historical origin of the word that have a completely different morphology. The two classes can be called inherited and borrowed. But this article uses names from Matros, 2006. Ikioclitic and Xenoclitic. The class to which a word belongs is obvious from its ending. Ikioclitic. The first class is the Old Indian vocabulary, and to some extent Persian, Armenian, and Greek loanwords. The Ikioclitic class can also be divided into two subclasses, based on the ending. Nominals ending in O/I. The ending of words in this subclass is O with masculines, I with feminines, with the latter ending triggering palatalization of preceding D, E, N, L to D, P, N, L. Examples of masculine. O chavo, the son. O digno, the little. O amaro, power, M. Feminine. E Rackley, non-Romani girl. E Signy, small, note the change, NN. E Amari, ours, F. Nominals without ending. All words in this subclass have no ending, regardless of gender. Examples of masculine. O proud, / style, the brother. O sucker, the nice, M. O dat, the father. Feminine. E ben, the sister. E sucker, the nice, F, same as M. E died, the mother. Phenoclitic. The second class is loanwords from European languages. Macross adds that the morphology of the new loanword might be borrowed from Greek. The ending of the borrowed masculine is os, is, as, us, and the borrowed feminine ends in a. Examples from Slovakian Romani. Masculine. O Sutros, shoemaker. O autobuses, bus. O Yesitelis, teacher, N. Feminine. E Rokla / Majka, skirt. E Ablaka / Bokna, window. E Yesitelka, teacher, F. From Yesitelka in Slovak. Basics of morphology. Romani has two grammatical genders, masculine / feminine, and two numbers, singular / plural. All nominals can be singular or plural. Cases. Nouns are marked for case, the most important being the nominative and the accusative case. The vocative, nominative, and indirect case are bits outside of the case system, as they are produced only by adding a suffix to the root. Example, the suffix for singular masculine vocative of Ethioclitic type is aja. Chavaja. You, boy, or son. Signaja. You, little one. Rala. Brother. The other 5 cases are a little different. They are all derived from an indirect root that is made a little differently for each type. The indirect root is the same as the accusative case. For this root, every case adds its own suffix, with disregard to gender or type. E/da, locative and prepositional, K/ge, dative, tar/star, ablative, sa, instrumental and comitative, and ker/der, genitive. Example, the suffix for indirect root for masculine plural for all inherited words is n. The dative suffix is case. O, kozaro, mushroom. Kozarin, the indirect root, also used as accusative. Mila, Pyros kozarenj. In the summer, we go on mushrooms, meaning picking mushrooms. There are many declension classes of nouns that decline differently and show dialectal variation. Slovakian Romani also uses these 9 cases. Nominative, vocative, accusative, dative, locative, ablative, instrumental, genitive, indirect case. The indirect case is used when a word functions as an attribute before a word, and is not considered a case in some literature. Agreement. Romani shows the typically Indo-Aryan pattern of the genitive agreeing with its head noun. Example, Chavies Kuro Frau, the boy's brother. Chavies Kurai Sen, the boy's sister. Adjectives and the definite article show agreement with the noun they modified. Example, Nero, dad, my father. Mirai, died, my mother. Verbs. Romani derivations are highly synthetic and partly agglutinative. However, they are also sensitive to recent development. For example, in general, Romani in Slavic countries show the adoption of productive action morphology. The core of the verb is the lexical root. Verb morphology is suffixed. The verb stem, including derivation markers, by itself has a non-perfective aspect and is present or subjunctive. Hag. Similarly to nominals, verbs in Romani belong to several classes, but unlike nominals, these are not based on historical origins. However, the loaned verbs can be recognized, again, by specific endings, which some argue are Greek in origin. Irregular verbs. Some words are irregular, like to eat, gel, to be. Class 1. The next three classes are recognizable by a suffix in third person singular. The first class, called I, has a suffix L in third person singular. Examples, in 3 PSSG. Te carol, to do. Te sunal, to hear. Te cycle, to see. Class 2. Words in the second category, called to, have a suffix L in third person singular. Examples, in 3 PSSG. Te del, to go. Te laxal, to be ashamed, shy away. Te asol, to laugh. Te padal, to believe. Te tal, to eat. Class 3. All the words in the third class are semantically causative passive. Examples of Te siklal, to learn. Te label, to burn. To martel, to be beaten. Te pathlal, to lie. Borrowed verbs. Borrowed verbs from other languages are marked with affixes taken from Greek tense / affect suffixes, including as dash, in dash, and as dash. Morphology. The Romani verb has 3 persons and 2 numbers, singular and plural. There is no verbal distinction between masculine and feminine. Romani tenses are, not exclusively, present tense, future tense, 2 past tenses, perfect and imperfect, present or past conditional and present imperative. Depending on the dialect, the suffix the mark the present, future, or conditional. There are many perfective suffixes, which are determined by root phonology, valency, and semantics, e.g. per d did. There are 2 sets of personal conjugation suffixes, one for non-perfective verbs, and another for perfective verbs. The non-perfective personal suffixes continued from Middle Indo-Aryan. These are slightly different for consonant and vowel final roots, e.g. sas, ui, can we as you want. The perfective suffixes, deriving from late Middle Indo-Aryan, enclitic pronouns. Verbs may also take a further remoteness of suffixes /ahi, /ys, /f. With non-perfective verbs, this marks the imperfect, habitual, or conditional. With the perfective, this marks the pluperfect or counterfactual. Class 1. All the persons and numbers of the present tense of the word te carol. Various tenses of the same word, all in second person singular. Present, 2 years. Future, 2 half years. Past imperfect equals present, conditional, 2 karaha. Past perfect, 2 curdle, current d plus al. Past conditional, 2 curdlers, current d plus al indid. Present imperative, per. Class 2. All the persons and numbers of the present tense of the word te-fatal. Various tenses of the word thl, all in second person singular. Present, tu das. Future, tu daha. Past imperfect equals present, conditional, tu daha. Past perfect, tu golem. An a regular form of tu patad is tu padanon. Past conditional, tu zalahas. Present imperative, zala. Class 3. All the persons and numbers of the present tense of the word te patlo. Note the added uv dash, which is typical for this group. Various tenses of the same word, all in second person singular again. Present, tu paslos. Future, tu pasla. Past imperfect equals present, conditional, tu paslas. Past perfect, tu paslilo. Pasl and il plus al. Past conditional, tu paslawalas. Pasl and il plus al indid. Present imperative, pasla. Valency. Valency markers are affixed to the verb root either to increase or decrease valency. There is dialectal variation as to which markers are most used. Common valency increasing markers are AB-, AR-, and per and common valency decreasing markers are job and AB-. These may also be used to derive verbs from nouns and adjectives. Syntax. The Romani syntax is quite different from most Indo-Aryan languages and shows more similarity to the Balkan languages. Sinkova and Zuniova, while describing Slovakian Romani, argues that Romani is a three-word order language, and that it allows for theme rime structure, similarly to Czech, and that in some Romani dialects in East Slovakia, there is a tendency to put a verb at the end of a sentence. However, Matros describes it further. According to Matros, in most dialects of Romani, Romani is a VO language, with SVO order in contrastive sentences and verb-subject-object order in thetic sentences. The tendency to put verb on the end in some dialects is the Slavic influence. Examples from Slovakian Romani. Odi kosi salali. This cup is cold. Oda salali kosi. This is a cold cup. Clauses are usually finite. Relative clauses, introduced by the relativizer type, are postponed. Factual and non-factual complex clauses are distinguished. Romani in modern times. Romani has lent several words to English such as pal, ultimately from Sanskrit brother, brother, and narc informant, from Romani, nak nose. Other Romani words in general slang are gaji, originally meaning person who's not Roma, currently used as a gender-neutral term for boyfriend/girlfriend in Bulgaria, shiv, or chiv, knife. Urban British slang shows an increasing level of Romani influence, with some words becoming accepted into the lexicon of standard English. For example, Chad from an assumed Anglo-Romani word, meaning small boy, in the majority of dialects. There are efforts to teach and familiarize blacks Romani to a new generation of Romani, so that Romani spoken in different parts of the world are connected through a single dialect of Romani. Indian Institute of Romani Studies, Chandigarh, published several Romani language lessons through its journal Roma during the 1970s. Occasionally loan words from other Indo-Iranian languages such as Hindi are mistakenly labeled as Romani due to surface similarities, due to a shared root, such as Kushi, which is from Hindi, itself a loan from Persian Kuz, meaning excellent, healthy, happy. Para-Romani. Para-Romani is various mixed languages of non-Indo-Aryan linguistic classification, containing considerable admixture from the Romani language. They are spoken as the traditional vernacular of Romani communities, either in place of or alongside varieties of the Romani language. Some Para-Romani languages have no structural features of Romani at all, taking only the vocabulary from Romani. Reflecting the Romani who as a dispersed people reside predominantly throughout Europe over the last 1,000 years, though with origins in the northern Indian subcontinent, in regions which are today part of India and Pakistan. The linguistic makeup of most Para-Romani languages are based on Indo-European languages, except for Laos Romani, which is based on Estonian, and Aromingtala, which is based on Basque of the Basque region of Spain and France, separate from the Calo-Iberian Romani. Language of Spanish and Portuguese Romani, based on the Romance languages of Iberia. The phenomenon of Para-Romani languages is entirely different from Jewish languages, other than Hebrew, which are spoken by different communities of the Jewish diaspora and are heavily influenced by Hebrew, such as Yiddish, Judeo-German, among Ashkenazi Jews, Ladino, Judeo-Spanish, among Sephardic Jews, or Yavanic, Judeo-Greek, Italcian, Judeo-Italian, various Judeo-Arabic languages, etc. Varieties. Based on Indo-European languages. Armenian-based. Lomavran language. Germanic-based. Anglo-Romani. Scottish Camp. Pandro-Romani. Sinti-Manouche, moving from a Romani variant to being Para-Romani. Greek-based. Romano-Greek. Romance-based. Hollow. Slavonic-based. Bohemian Romani, which was moving towards being a Para-Romani variety prior to extinction. Romano-Serbian. Persian-based. Afghanistan Gorbit. Persian Romani. Magadhi. based on non-Indo-European languages. Finnic-based. Live-used, Romani, Estonian-based. Turkic-based. Crimean Romani, Crimean Tatar-based. Hervetia, Turkish-based. Basque-based. Aromingsula. Balkan Romani. Balkan Romani, also known as Balkan Gypsy, is a specific dialect spoken by groups within the Balkans, which include countries such as Albania, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Bulgaria, Greece, Kosovo, Macedonia, Serbia, Turkey, Romania, etc. The Balkan Romani language is typically an oral language. This dialect is endangered because, not only is it looked down upon by other Europeans, but it only has about 763,670 speakers left in the world. Classification: Indo-European, Indo-Iranian, Indo-Aryan, Intermediate Division, Western, Romani, Balkan. History: most of the people who speak Balkan Romani are Romani themselves. Another meaning of the prefix Ron is someone belonging to the Romani ethnicity. The Romani people are ultimate of Indian origin. Speakers of the Balkan Romani language have constantly migrated throughout the years into all parts of Europe. Since these speakers have migrated to different parts of Europe, new dialects have formed. Although the Romani people originated in India, they are now widespread throughout all of Europe. Dialect. Balkan dialect, also known as Balkanized, are spoken in Albania, Bulgaria, Greece, Iran, Kosovo, Macedonia, Moldova, Romania, Serbia, Turkey, and Ukraine. This group includes Inter alia Arli Romani, Greece, Kosovo, Macedonia, Stepasides Romani, Greece, Turkey, Ursari Romani, Moldavia, Romania, and Crimean Romani, Ukraine. This dialect, also called Balkan II, are a distinct subdivision within the Balkan group. Ugurtvi, Drundari, and Kalajtvi Romani are spoken in Macedonia, Kosovo, and northern and central Bulgaria. Phonology. The sound inventory of Romani does not differ significantly from that of other European languages, most of which belong to the Indo-European family. The consonant system of Balkan Romani differs in one significant aspect from those of other European languages. It has the aspirated plosives, aspirated stops, characteristic of Indian languages. In the case of Romani, these are the voiceless aspirated plosives, /ph, ph, kh/, which in the majority of Romani variants, at least at the beginning of a word, have a semantically distinct function. Vocabulary and lexis. Turkish lexical influence is a defining and extremely important part of the Romani dialect in the Balkans. Most of the words, however, originate from Persian origin. Loans from Persian, Armenian, and Byzantine Greek make up the pre-European lexicon. Ultimately, it is hard to trace the definite origin of all the words because the words of Balkan Romani originate from many sources and the sources of those languages create a complex puzzle. Grammar. Turkish grammar plays a large role in Balkan Romani. The use of Turkish conjugations is widely embedded within Balkan Romani, and oftentimes, it is difficult to tell the difference between the grammar of the two languages depending on geography. Balkan Romani has compartmentalized grammar, originating from Turkish verbal paradigms, along with some Greek influence. Much of the morphology of the language have Greek and Turkish origins, which is why the language is viewed by many professionals as a mixed language, and thus it is hard to see where one language ends and the other begins. All Romani dialects use Greek-derived nominal endings, masculine nouns, and loan nouns. Morphology. The morphology of the Balkan Romani language is again heavily influenced by both the Turkish and Greek languages. Many people view this language as a sort of melting pot because there are so many different influences on it. Turkish and Greek might be the most influential languages on Balkan Romani, but other languages, such as Armenian, have also influenced it. Part of the substrate of Balkan Romani appears to be derived from medieval northern Indian languages. Balkan Romani has traditionally been an oral language, but recently, there is a growing amount of effort to decode and standardize the language. Balkan Romani wrote with Cyrillic script. Carpathian Romani. Carpathian Romani, also known as Central Romani or Romunga Romani, is a group of dialects of the Romani language spoken from southern Poland to Hungary and from eastern Austria to Ukraine. North Central Romani is one of a dozen major dialect groups within Romani, an Indo-Aryan language of Europe. The North Central dialects of Romani are traditionally spoken by some sub-ethnic groups of the Romani people in Hungary, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, except for its southwestern and south-central regions, southeastern Poland, the Transcarpathia province of Ukraine, and parts of Romanian Transylvania. There are also established out-migrant communities of North Central Romani speakers in the United States, and recent out-migrant communities in the United Kingdom, Ireland, Belgium, and some other Western European countries. Bibliography. Boretsky, Norbert. 1999. Zeitgliederung der zentralen Dialekt und die Beziehungen zwischen sublichen zentralen Dialekten, Romungro, und die Südbalkanischen Romani Dialekten. In Halbuck, Dieter W. and Florian Menn, eds, Zeitsprache der Roma. Perspektive in der Romani Forschung in erster Reihe im interdisziplinären und die internationalen Kontext. Klagenfurt, Bravo. 210 to 276. Elphick, Victor, Milena Hauchmanova, and Hanna Sivkova. 1999. The Southern Central, the imperfect, Romani dialect of Slovakia and Northern Hungary. In Halbuck, Dieter W. and Florian Menn, eds, Zeitsprache der Roma. Perspektive in der Romani Forschung in erster Reihe im interdisziplinären und die internationalen Kontext. Klagenfurt, Bravo. 277 to 390. Elphick, Victor. 2003. Interdialect contact of Czech and Slovak Romani varieties. International Journal of the Sociology of Language, 162, 41 to 62. Elphick, Victor, and Yaron Matroff. 2006. Marksness and Language Change, the Romani Sample. Berlin, Mouton, Sigruder. Sint Romani. Sint Romani, also known as Sintengarot Skids, N. Sintetiques, Manus, or Romanes, /RMNS/, is the variety of Romani spoken by the Sinti people in Germany, France, Austria, Belgium, the Netherlands, some parts of northern Italy, and other adjacent regions. Sint Romani is characterized by significant German influence and is not mutually intelligible with other forms of Romani. The language is written in the Latin script. Overview. The name Romani derives from Rom, the historical self-designation of speakers of the Romani language group. Romani is sometimes written as Romani, often in English, but native-speaking people use the word Romani for the language. Historically, Romani people have been known for being nomadic, but today only a small percent of Romani people are unsettled due to forced assimilation and government interventions. Sint Romani is a dialect of Romani and belongs to the Northwestern Romani dialect group, which also includes a dialect spoken by Romani in Finland. Sinti is the self-designation of a large Romani population that began leaving the Balkans early on in the dispersion of the Romani language group, from the end of the 14th century on, and migrated to German-speaking territory. Sinti in France typically also speak Sint Romani, but refer to themselves as Manus or Manouche. Today Sint is mainly spoken in Germany, France, northern Italy, Switzerland, Serbia, and Croatia, with smaller numbers of speakers in Austria, the Czech Republic, and the Netherlands. Sinti form the largest subgroup of Romani people in Germany, and Germany, in turn, is home to the largest number of Sint Romani speakers. Nearly all Sint Romani speakers speak multiple languages. The dominant language of the country they live in is the most common. Phonology. Sint Romani is a non-tonal language with 25 consonants, 6 vowels, and 4 diphthongs.
This is brought to you by the strange, the bizarre, the unusual. I like it. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, please like, subscribe, share, make comments. We love feedback. This is brought to you by the strange, the bizarre, the unusual. I like it on both Facebook and YouTube.
Romani people. The Sinti. The Sinti, also Sinta or Sint, masculine Sing. Sinto, them. Sing. Sintisa are a Romani, people of Central Europe. They were traditionally itinerant, but today only a small percentage of Sinti remain unsettled. In earlier times, they frequently lived on the outskirts of communities. The Sinti of Central Europe are closely related to the group known as Manouche in France. They speak the Sinti-Manouche variety of Romani, which exhibits strong German influence. Name. The origin of the name Sinti is disputed. Some, including many Sinti themselves, believe it derives from Sindhi, the name of a people of Sind, a region in Pakistan, based on indications that Romani peoples originated in the Indian subcontinent. In addition to the documented linguistic connections between Romani language and Sanskrit, a recent study by Estonian and Indian researchers found genetic similarities between European Romani men and Indian men in their sample. The word India derives from Indus, and Indus civilization is the English name for the historical Sindh civilization, from Mohenjo-daro, also known as Sindh. Sindh is known as Sindhis. Those are based on Indus River or Sindh river divided into two parts of India and Pakistan. Thus, Sinti peoples are historical Sindhi peoples of Sindh, now Pakistan and India. A dancing girl statue was also found in Mohenjo-Daro, the oldest Sindh or Indus civilization, which also connects Sindhis and Sintis. According to British spy, explorer, historian, and scholar Sir Richard Burton, who lived in Sindh, India in the era of British India, who wrote that Sinti peoples come from the Jat tribe of Sindh. Others, including scholar Yaron Matras, argue that Sinti is a later term only in use by the Sinti from the 18th century on and is likely a European loanword. History. The Sinti arrived in Germany and Austria in the late Middle Ages, along with Romani from the Indian subcontinent, eventually splitting into two groups, Eftivagarja, the Seven Caravans, and Extraxarja, from Austria. They arrived in Germany before 1540. The two groups expanded, the Eftivagarja into France, Portugal, and Brazil, where they are called Manouches, and the Extraxarja into Italy and Central Europe, mainly what are now Croatia, Slovenia, Hungary, Romania, the Czech Republic, and Slovakia, eventually adopting various regional names. In Italy, they are present mainly in the Piedmont region, wherein Piedmontese are called Cinto, although the word for Romani people is Singer, as the Italians Zingari, with some communities in Veneto and Emilia-Romagna as well. The Holocaust. Sinti and Roma had migrated to Germany in the late 15th century. Nonetheless, they were still generally regarded as beggars and thieves, and by 1899, the police kept a central register on Romani people. The National Socialists considered them racially inferior, see Nazism and race, and persecuted them throughout Germany during the Nazi period, the Nuremberg laws of 1935 often being interpreted to apply to them as well as the Jews. Adolf Eichmann recommended that the Third Reich solve the Gypsy question simultaneously with the Jewish question, resulting in the deportation of the Sinti to clear room to build homes for ethnic Germans. Some were sent to Poland, or elsewhere, including some deported to Yugoslavia by the Hamburg police in 1939. Others were confined to designated areas, and many were eventually murdered in gas chambers. Many Sinti and Roma were taken to Auschwitz-Birkenau, where they were put in a special section, called the Gypsy Camp. Dr. Joseph Mengeloften performed some of his infamous experiments on Sinti and Roma. On August 2, 1944, the Gypsy Camp was closed, and approximately 4,000 Sinti and Roma were gassed during the night of August 2 to 3 and burnt in the crematoria. August 2 is now commemorated as Roma and Sinti Holocaust Remembrance Day. In concentration camps, the Sinti were forced to wear either a black triangle, indicating their classification as a social, or a brown triangle, specifically reserved for Romani people. Notable Sinti. There are many Sinti notable for their contributions to music. Django Reinhardt was a guitarist who fused traditional dance hall musettes with American jazz in the 1930s and 1940s. Along with Stéphane Grappelli and other members of the Quintet du Hot Club de France, he founded the style of music known as gypsy jazz. Other notable Sinti musicians include Schnuckenack Reinhardt, Drafi Deutscher, and the jazz guitarists Jimmy Rosenberg and Paulus Schaefer. The Sinto Hanscha Weiss produced a record in Germany in the 1970s in which he sang about the Paremos, Romani Holocaust, in his language. Many younger Germans first learned about this part of Holocaust history as a result of this recording. E.T. Winterstein and several members of Reinhardt's clan still play traditional and modern gypsy jazz. The jazz keyboardist, Joe Zawinul, was also of Sinti descent. Marianne Rosenberg is a successful Sinti/Roma German singer. She is the daughter of Auschwitz survivor Otto Rosenberg, who in 1936, at 9 years of age, was placed in a concentration camp where his father, his grandmother, and all his siblings were murdered. She sings mainly in German, but has sung in English, French, Italian, and the Sinti language. She finished 10th in the German pre-selection for the 1975 Eurovision Song Contest with the RG Hort Zumir. Her biography Kokolores is a bestseller in Europe. Sinti are also notable for sporting achievements. Johann Trollmann won the 1933 light heavyweight boxing championship of Germany, but was stripped of the title by the Nazis, who could not tolerate a non-Aryan champion. Trollmann was murdered in a concentration camp in 1943 by another inmate. List of notable Sinti. Otto Rosenberg, 1927 to 2001, Holocaust survivor, author of A Gypsy in Auschwitz, 1999, activist and founder of Sinti Union of Berlin, an organization for German Sinti and Roma. Django Reinhardt, musician. Schnevenack Reinhardt, musician. Stefan Grappelli, musician. Jimmy Rosenberg, musician. Paulus Schaefer, musician. Hanscha Weiss, musician. T.T. Winterstein, musician. Joe Zawinul, musician. Odo Pessner, b. 1956, Slovenian singer of swing, jazz, Slovenian folk music, gospel, best known for singing with the group New Swing Quartet. Marianne Rosenberg, musician and daughter of Otto Rosenberg. Johann Trollmann, boxer.
This is brought to you by the strange, the bizarre, the unusual. I like it. This is brought to you by the strange, the bizarre, the unusual. I like it. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, please like, subscribe, share, make comments. We love feedback.